All right. Well, Mike OCP will be on shortly. I just sent him the link, so he'll be on shortly. So if ever just get on and say hi to people. DJ Ellis, AB James, hello there. But yeah, pretty much, like I said, Mike OCP Communications, dear friend of mine, is going to be joining me in a little bit, and probably in a matter of minutes. I figured I would just get started, and people want to come in and all that stuff, feel free. Let's do it. Hey there, Jedi Zilla. Hello there. Hello there. Hello, everyone. Things are okay. I was a bit under the weather last night, but had a good long night's sleep, and that helped a lot. Went to Vegas for your birthday. That's cool. Happy birthday to you, Jedi. AB James, I mean, I told you the 2023 slate is bad. I could have told you that, but don't listen to me. I hate everything, as I've been told. No, it's just there's not much to look forward to except maybe John Wick 4 and maybe that new Spider-Man one. Hey, Cinnamon 9 Podcast, hello there. Glad you enjoy the streams. Yeah, I have a friend of mine coming by in a little bit, in a few minutes, so hope you're doing well. Saw the trail of the Evil Dead Rise, and man, that was just BS and barbecue, man. I'm sure that would get a lot of praise, but to me, it was crap. Mike OCP. Uh, cool. Happy birthday for next week.
Hey there. Can you hear me okay?
Hello there. Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. Cool. I heard a little bit about somebody's birthday. Happy birthday. I guess it's gonna be yeah, next week. All right. Happy birthday, Casey. Early birthday.
A few people saying hi there to
Hey
you.
there. Hey there. I actually have today off from work and I have the next day off, so got more time to kind of unwind, kind of catch up on some things. I was just testing out a new um, media box that I got from Amazon. It plays stuff on flash drives and USB drives and whatever. Um, it works pretty good. I like it. Um, I don't know why Nvidia. I did it in Nvidia. I bought a Nvidia Shield before, but you had to use an app to be able to access the files. It didn't have its own like built-in app. You had to download an app and use that, which is it's lame.
Cody Leach is wrong, but to each their own.
Yeah,
But I'm doing
teach your
okay,
own on
thanks.
that. Yeah, I think Ghostbusters 2, while it's not as good as the first, it's not boring.
And is that a carbon copy, like other people say, like a
No,
carbon
not
copy?
at all. Like I don't agree with that
Look at
statement.
look at Ghostbusters Afterlife.
That's what I was gonna
That's
say.
more of a copy.
Ghostbusters Afterlife is also more boring.
Yeah, Afterlife sucks. I mean, the theme people complain about Ghostbusters 2, how come they didn't say that about Afterlife, which is more of a copy
Yeah, because
of
it's
the first?
Gozer. It's Gozer
It has the
again.
same ending.
Yeah, and you have the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper.
You have the Stay Puffed, only small. You got the Terror
Yeah,
Dogs.
yeah.
That's
Here you got Vigo, you got Janish, you've got the craziness of the slime, and when it starts causing all these different ghosts to show up in the climax, and you have
the
the
subplot with the child with Dana.
yeah,
That's very
yeah,
different. And
yeah. There's similar stuff like the stuff with the mayor and the a-hole guy, uh,
2060, yeah.
the mayor's aide.
Kurt
Was
Fuller.
it? Yeah, Kurt Fuller's character was it Niedermeyer or whatever. That's basically them trying to do the whole Walter Peck thing again. And I do admit it doesn't
Kind
have as much of an edge comedically as the first film. So
well, yeah, they
there is
took
a
the
little
edge
bit of
down because
that.
the real Ghostbusters
Mhm.
cartoon was around, so that's why they don't smoke as much and they don't. It's not like they curse a lot, but there's a little
No.
less of it. But it didn't bother me as much as other people. I still,
Mhm.
when I watch it again, I'm like, this is still a very fun, entertaining
It
movie.
is. It
I
is
still got a
because
lot of
the
good chuckles
cast,
out of it.
they still have amazing chemistry. They still love being together. I don't buy Bill Murray's stories about working on this movie because I look at the press kit footage and interviews from around that time, and it doesn't seem like he was miserable. And then on top of that, I mean, everyone else was just having a great time. That's the reason why Ghostbusters 2 was even made, is because of the fact that they all got together along with Ivan, and they just had a lunch date, and then they started reminiscing about Ghostbusters, and then they were all like, let's do another one. And and that's the chemistry that that cast has is just so electric and so amazing that that it's honestly some of the best chemistry out of any group of characters in cinema, because it just they work so well together. Like just that one scene with the toaster and when it's like doing its thing, and then right afterwards, Dan Aykroyd runs up and gives Bill Murray a bear hug and lifts him off the ground. Like that stuff you can't replicate, and that was natural. Like I don't even think that was acting. That was just Dan having fun with his friends. And that really did show up on the screen.
Well, like we was talking to Bill Murray was talking. Neither of you sleeping with it, right? And they look at
Yeah.
Egon. Oh, it's always the quiet ones. You hound.
You hound. Like there's still a lot of things from that movie that I still think of to this day, like with laundry, you did my laundry? There's various different layers to things here. See, this is clean. This is fine.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, yeah, that's sort of the how usual people think. Yeah, so they must be right. Yeah,
Well,
that
Red
don't
Letter
matter at
Media,
all.
I like a lot of their content, but sometimes they're off the mark. They're off base, and I think they're off base with Ghostbusters 2, and I've always felt they were off base with Indiana Jones 4. I think that is honestly the worst Plinkett video, because there's just so many arguments that are made in that are just lazy, and in some ways just straight up mean spirited, especially the attacks towards Karen Allen.
Didn't they like The Force Awakens and praise that?
Oh, no, I don't think they did. Well, maybe initially, and then
Yeah, they
and
did
after the
because they were seeing
fact.
the praise of J.J. Abrams because they like those Star Trek films. Yeah, good
Oh
job. They're the
yeah.
ones that brought up Jar Jar Abrams. They're the ones that said J.J. Abrams should do Star Wars. They
Uh
said that. Look how that turned out. So good job.
huh.
I like Red Letter Media, but doesn't mean we gonna agree with everything they say. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and anyone who puts Ghostbusters 2016 above Ghostbusters 2, um, there's no reason to listen to a damn thing they have to say ever again. So sorry, Cody Leach. I know you have more subs than me, but anyone that says Ghostbusters 2016 is better, a film with a pussy fart joke, is
Was
better than
that a is
Ghostbusters
that is
2.
that somebody in the chat who's
No,
saying that
Cody
it's
Leach
better than
is a
Ghostbusters?
big YouTuber guy.
Oh, okay.
A guy mentioned this was his
Forgive
this big
me. I don't know
YouTuber's
why my
ranking.
eyes are bothering me so much. Probably because we're talking about Ghostbusters 2016.
That was this guy's his ranking.
Oh, Corey Leach. Oh, the Corey from Double Toasted, right?
So I thought that was a
Is that who
different
it is?
Corey.
Oh, that
I
yeah,
think
that's
this is a
Corey
different
Taylor.
one.
That's Corey Taylor, I think. Yeah, it's a different Corey, I guess. I don't know who this guy
I'm sorry.
is.
Yeah, I don't care anybody that says that 2016 is better than Ghostbusters 2. This man has no dick. I don't
And
care
he
if that's
hates
me.
Jello.
Fuck it. Sometimes shit happens. Who don't call
Cool, exactly.
us?
Yeah, sometimes weird things happen, and who you gonna call?
Yeah, Cody Leach. That's what I thought the guy's name was. Yeah. Hey there. I hate Facebook. Everyone. Yeah. Yeah. This man has no dick. Well, sorry. I say stuff sarcastically for fun, but I don't have to agree with Cody Leach's list. People,
Yeah.
there's stuff I see people don't agree with. Teach their own. We all have different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But again, to say it goes with 2016 where they shoot a ghost in the dick
And you
and
have
has a pussy
female
fart
Slimer.
joke. It's it,
You have female Slimer
yeah.
just randomly for like no reason. You have really bad cameo roles from the original cast where they're just there for a paycheck. And in some instances, like they're just contractually obligated to do so. Like you could tell Dan Aykroyd's heart was not in that cameo. Like if he could get away with flipping the camera off in that scene, he would have done that because Dan was
Must
not at all on board
must get a good
with this.
payday,
I guess so.
I would
I
think.
guess so.
Or is it true that they were talked into do it or you'll get sued?
Yeah,
I don't
there's
know.
that. I think that's what it was. A lot of it was contractually obligated sort of stuff.
Well,
I
this
saw
is nice.
Elvis, and thanks,
I didn't
Bright.
see it. Say your few
Uh,
thoughts on Elvis. I know you mentioned before, but in case you didn't see it.
yeah,
Thank
I
you,
liked
Bryce.
it. I've actually seen it a couple times now, and I didn't like it as much the second time around as the first, but it's got great visuals. The actor who plays Elvis, I don't know why his name is not coming to me at the moment, but he did a really good job playing Elvis. The direction by Baz Luhrmann at times can be a little schizophrenic, a little bit all over the place, but visually it's absolutely stunning on numerous instances. Tom Hanks's portrayal of the Colonel is a little cartoony and definitely almost into Foghorn Leghorn territory. Just very weird, uh, uh, kind of performance. It I warmed up to it as the film went on just because of just how misguided of a take Tom Hanks was bringing to the role. It just became entertaining just because of just how bad it was at times. Um he really feels like he should be in a different movie, like or like some Elvis animated cartoon series from the 70s. You know, where I'll get you evil promoters or whatever. You're not going to stop Elvis from doing his show in Vegas. And it does mess around with some of the timeline, and it's not entirely accurate to what actually happened.
Hmm.
And I do think there's too much of a focus on Colonel Tom Parker when it should be more focused on Elvis. But still, what I would consider a solid film. Definitely one of the better films I've seen from last year. I'm still compiling together a list of best and worst of 2022 because I still have a few films I want to watch that I think could be good or bad before I even do anything. But Elvis would be on there as of right now in terms
Well,
of
before I move on,
best.
yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, before I move on, I just want to say hi to people out there. I hate Facebook, Lord Cosmo, Unbreakable Magic, Predator, Liam, Neopunk, Jazilla. Yes, Retro Crypt, there was a female Slimer in Ghostbusters 2016. That's
Mm-hmm.
not made up. There was a female Slimer. Radiator, titties out, or whatever the hell.
Just like there
Uh,
were ghost farts or pussy farts. That's what it was actually.
pussy farts. They might as well have been
And they
ghost
didn't
farts.
really bust any ghosts. They destroyed them. They punished them. They chopped them up into ghost
Well, they did
pieces.
bust one, and then it killed Bill
But they
Murray.
let it go. They let it
because
go.
Bill Murray told him to.
Yeah. No, well, really, they didn't have to let it go. It was just the character played by Kristen Wiig. She was so pissed at the guy for not believing that she let it go
Yeah.
to try to prove a point.
But also, hi there, Tim, money saving, everybody else. Uh, and yes, someone asked, yes, I do not like the original Night of the Living Dead. I prefer the 1990 remake. And my favorite is George Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah,
That's just my preference. I prefer Night of
that's
the Living Dead, the remake,
honestly
1990.
that's my preference as well. I probably like the original Night of the Living Dead more than you, but I'm really, yeah, they shot the franchise and the fans in the dick with a proton stream.
Exactly.
That's why it's called
Ah,
Ball Busters. It's Ball Busters. It's not Ghostbusters, it's Ball Busters. They barely busted any ghosts to begin with. They spent most of the time just busting people's balls.
well, first off, hi there, Alberto. Sorry about that. I missed that. Hi there, Monteval. And yes, Ghostbusters, ball lickers, uh, dick swallowers, cum blowers. Uh,
Yeah, we were gonna
yes,
talk about this, so
I saw the Evil Dead Rise trailer, and it looks like this movie will be a typical 2020 modern film. There's even a rain spider crawl. I thought, yeah, I think in a post I said it was like, maybe I didn't say in the post, but like it looks like The Grudge. That's how by
yeah.
the numbers this movie will be.
Well, also
Yes,
the
I saw
cast.
the trailer.
The
Huh?
cast too. The cast is a typical 2020 modern horror film
Oh
where,
yeah,
I you have really, in my opinion, what seem like forced attempts at representation. Like for some reason, one of the kids is trans, which I guess is fine if they handle that
I didn't even
correctly.
know that.
But how often do they handle it correctly nowadays? There's probably going to be lines of dialogue and some other stuff talking about how
So there's a
ostracized the
single
trans kid
woman.
is or something.
So wait, there's the single woman, there's the mom, there's the little girl, and there's a trans
The
person.
blonde, I think the blonde is
Oh,
trans.
I didn't even know about that. I just thought it looked really generic. And I'm like,
Yes.
I said this in a post, and forgive me for repeating
This
this, but
cast reminded me of the cast of Texas Chainsaw 2022. That's really what this cast reminded me of. Other
this,
than the kid.
this is making the same mistake that the Evil Dead remake from 2013 made for me, where they felt Evil Dead was only about gore. And Evil Dead to me was not just about gore. It had
No.
gore, but there was also a lot of other stuff to it. There was creativity,
Yes.
ingenuity.
Mhm.
There's also different weird creatures, whether it be the Evil Dead 2 at the end with the rotten head, and even Henrietta
Yeah.
was a deadite, but also turned to creatures and monsters and
Mhm.
elongated necks. Even the
Yeah.
first one, you had weird stuff like the mirror turn into water, light bulbs filling up with blood, film
Yes.
projectors bleeding. None of this stuff is incorporated,
Or like the stuff
was
in
in
Evil Dead
2013.
2 when, everything in the room comes to life. It starts laughing at, Ash, including the fucking desk lamp, you know? It's a part of Evil Dead is this tongue-in-cheek, over the top, you know, almost silly nature to it, but at the same time, still having moments of genuinely serious dread, tension, or horror. And the Evil Dead remake lacked pretty much all of that. It was more serious. It was more of a try hard kind of film in terms of, ooh, we are really scary this time. This time it's Evil Dead for real. There's no jokes
Well,
here.
it's also one of those things where I hate to say it, one of the interesting things about that franchise was to have a male lead in
That
a horror franchise,
yes.
which made it refreshing, different, interesting. And now
I
we've
mean,
gone back
even
to nope, can't have that
yep,
anymore.
Exactly.
Even for the one franchise they had it.
Even in the first Evil Dead, because I watched the trilogy sometime last year, in 35 millimeter in the theater. It was a really awesome experience. It was really cool, and it was
Hold
really
that
fun to
thought
see those
one
again.
second. I just want to laugh at this person because this person's been giving me money, but it's a troll.
Mhm.
This is about a video game I played, but look what he says. I played it. It's not trash. He meant to type it's trash, and he screwed up so badly. He said it's not trash. You're right. I'm glad you agree with me, dude. You're right. It's not trash. Thank you for agreeing with me. You're right. The
Callisto
Callisto
Protocol, right?
Protocol.
Yeah.
Yep, it's not trash. So this, you agree with me. So thank you not only for the money, but thank you for agreeing with me. I played it. It's not trash. You're absolutely right. You're right. It is not trash. Thank you for agreeing with me, dude. So thank you. But sorry, go ahead. I
So
just thought that was funny. Yeah.
that is funny.
He's agreeing with me.
So watching the first film again, in particular, Ash or Ashley in that film, he's not your typical male lead in a horror film. Like he has traits that you might connect with a final girl. His vulnerability, there are other things about him where he's not necessarily the same kind of
Thank you.
character that you saw later on in the franchise. Like he was a work in progress. He was scared, he didn't even want to use a chainsaw, that kind of stuff. There was a certain different take on the typical male lead that I thought was ahead of its time in Evil Dead. And then as the franchise continued, you got to see Ash become more of the wisecracking badass that we know and love. But it was a very intriguing initial take on
Apparently, yeah, white men
the
are not
character.
allowed in high-rise
Well, we're not
buildings.
even allowed to have an Evil Dead in a high rise now because it's not even a film that takes place in a fucking high rise anymore. Now, I know I heard from some people that, oh, that was just a rumor, but like, why the hell would you call it Evil Dead Rise if it's not supposed to take place in a high rise? That title doesn't really make any sense in that context. But that was one of the main selling points for me. It's like, oh, a high rise horror film with a decent budget, something I've been wanting to see. But I don't even get that. It just takes place in an apartment, which is not really that different from the setting of the remake. The setting of the remake was another cabin in the woods, but once again,
Yeah.
it's very much a tight enclosed space. Yeah, the camera work was another thing that was very unique about the Evil Dead films. And they tried to carry that over in the remake as well, but it's not really the same because Raimi's not the one behind the camera doing it. And since it's a remake, it just feels like you're ripping it off or you're just doing a lazy homage. And speaking of lazy stuff, the trailer just makes the film look incredibly lazy and generic because it's
Thank you,
like it's
Jason.
this. Thanks, man. It's the same shit as the remake. It's just in a different
Even that
setting
cruise ship.
with different characters. It's the same
Speed 2 Jet
focus
Control.
on intense, extreme gore because like that was really the biggest factor when it comes to the success of the Evil Dead trilogy was the extreme gore. I don't remember that ever being the case. Like that was part of it, but
I
it
mean,
was also the
there's
characters.
gore in it, but that's
Yes.
not the only reason why we liked Evil Dead. We liked the refreshing change of a lead guy. The Ash
Mhm.
character in the three movies is what made it Evil Dead separate. When you take that
Yeah.
out, it becomes a generic wannabe ring grudge movie
Yeah.
with a bit
Plus,
more
we
blood.
already did that. We already had the female lead in an Evil Dead film in the remake. in this trailer,
Exactly.
you see the new girl who's supposed to, I guess, be the next face of the franchise, and she's completely interchangeable from Mia, the
Yeah, I
character
thought it was the
from
same one
Evil
for a
Dead.
second. I thought it was her for a second. She looked almost the same.
Exactly. They look almost identical. They have the same kind of charisma and personality,
This is a good
which
point.
isn't
No, yeah, no
much.
personality. No
Yes.
personality.
I don't count the mother trying to trick her kid really personality. That's weak.
Again, like I said, they don't also understand not only all that, but Evil Dead films also had creativity. I also remember the light bulb filling up with blood. I remember
Yes.
the crazy bit with all the lampshades and heads laughing at Ash.
Yes.
Like this is the stuff people remember. They're not going. They don't have the
Even the
typical
stuff in Army of
that last
Darkness,
shot.
with the army itself, the army of skeleton warriors, and the stuff with
Yeah,
Ash before, where a evil version of himself grows out of his shoulder,
I'm bad
and it's
Ash, and you're
yeah,
good.
yeah, stuff like that.
But that last shot in
Good,
the new trailer with
bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
when the crazy bitch is on the roof, not the roof, the ceiling, and like
Yeah,
that could be any
The Conjuring
James
4.
Wan ripoff Insidious movie. Tell
Even
me
the
I'm
look
wrong.
of even the look of the Deadites from what we saw in that trailer looks like something you would see in a generic possession movie. Like, where are the white eyes? Like, that's one of the most that's one of the things that I didn't really care for in the remake either. Is that they took away some of the differentiating factors of the Deadites. The white eyes is very striking and creepy, and now that they just have like regular, just yellow pupils or whatever, like something you saw in The Exorcist back in the 70s. Or hell, like the stuff with the generic possessed mother stuff. I mean, that's been done a million times. Now you're harkening back to the Exorcist ripoffs, like Beyond the Fucking Door from the 70s.
Y'all remember the classic Beyond the Door
Because that had a
by
possessed mom in it. No,
this
I
is what the
don't want
yeah,
nostalgia.
thank you. This is what the producer of the film would say. But Matt, Mike, don't you want nostalgia? No. You got nostalgia in your room, my room, on the walls,
Yeah, I could just
but we want
watch the Evil
new
Dead
stuff.
trilogy again instead of watching this. And it would probably be a
Exactly.
better, yeah, regular possession demons. And I know
I,
this, I'm judging things based on a trailer and so on,
that's what
but
a
that's what
trailer's
trailers are
point.
for.
They're marketing tools to get you to want to see the movie.
Yeah. And I
Otherwise,
don't
what's the
think,
point of a trailer in the first place?
yeah. And I don't think any of the performances by the cast that I saw in that trailer are going to be any better in the finished film. I don't think the little
You know what?
girl who's playing the daughter is all of a sudden going to be a great child actress with more scenes, because the few scenes I saw on that, she was so bad that I'm wondering, did she get this role as a favor? Like, did she know somebody, who was a producer of the film, and that's why she got the role? Because I find it pretty laughable that she won that role in an audition, because her line delivery is so flat, even for a kid.
Yeah. Here's the
Yeah,
thing: when people say, if they say that a trailer is not meant to be anything, you know what trailers are? You know when you go to a grocery store and they have people out there with the trays that you
and the
taste.
samples. Yeah, yeah, it's a
You
sample.
sample it to see if you buy it. If you
Mhm.
don't like it, you're not going to buy it. Want it. But if it tastes good, maybe, hey, I'll try it out. I'll test it out. Whether go try it out in the theater, it's the same thing. Like you have for food, you have for movies. And like it just looks like another wannabe Insidious type of possession type of
Or just the
movie.
sequel to the Evil Dead remake. I mean,
Yeah,
literally, you could just have
and I did not
had the
like the Evil
same
Dead remake.
actress who played Mia in the Evil Dead remake, just have her as the lead, and then have her, move to some apartment somewhere, which would make sense. She would want to live in a big city instead of living in yeah, a place where there's like a cabin in the woods.
The trailer
That
usually has the
too.
best shots and usually has the people pit. If those are the best acting visual clips they had, yeah, yeah. Evil Dead remake, the big money shots were in the trailer, especially the red
Yep.
band, the ton. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, this ain't jack squat. It's gonna be a lot of other bullshit. I
And
just
like the scalping stuff, I'm
unneeded
like, scalping?
fucking
Like, what is
bullshit.
this? Scalps? Is this scalps for 1983? Is this a continuation of the
It wasn't.
old Chief Woodenhead segment in Creepshow 2 with the Deadites scalping people instead of Chief
And
Woodenhead?
to answer I Live Again one, the remake wasn't that much of a hit.
No.
Um, it wasn't that much of a moneymaker compared to other remakes and stuff. So that's why there wasn't a sequel made, which I don't want a sequel anyway, but
Which
that's what this might as well
speaking
have
of
been a sequel.
sequels, I know you haven't seen this trailer yet because I know you don't want it spoiled, but uh when I saw Avatar: The Way of Water today with my stepdad, they showed a
Okay.
trailer for John Wick 4, and that looked pretty badass. Like that's a good example of like a trailer that does a good job selling you on the movie. You're like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it's another John Wick, but Keanu Reeves is once again a total badass, and yeah, I want to see that. They also showed the behind the
wait,
scenes
wait,
footage.
wait. Did you say John Reeves?
No, I said Keanu Reeves. But I mean, John
Okay,
Reeves could
Chad.
work too.
Chad,
I could
did
have
he
said
say
John
John
Reeves.
Reeves
But
or
I
did I
mean,
just
hell,
mishear
he
it?
is John
Did
Wick.
he say
He
John
is
Reeves?
John Wick. Keanu is John Wick at this point. Like it's
I know.
not
I'm
even
just
an act.
wonder if I don't have like hearing problem. Did he say
I
John
could have.
Reeves?
I could have.
Who's John Reeves? I get what you mean, John Wick, Keanu Reeves. I'm like, who's John
Yeah.
Reeves?
But yeah, Keanu Reeves, he is such a badass as John Wick that that is something that still translates even with like the fourth installment in the series.
Okay,
And
John Reeves.
John Reeves. Uh but yeah, it's just one of those things where Evil Dead Rise was underwhelming. John Wick 4 was like, "Oh yeah, all right, that got me up." I'm like, "I'm definitely going to go see that." Same thing goes for the behind the scenes stunt footage they showed for Dead Reckoning Part 1. They showed the behind the scenes of that stunt where Tom Cruise is on the bike and his crazy ass goes off a cliff and then jumps off a motorcycle and then parachutes. uh yeah, that was definitely something that was pretty cool. I swear at this point, Matt, Tom Cruise is the best stunt man in Hollywood. Like no wonder it's like we don't need a stunt man for Tom Cruise because he's already the best stunt man working in Hollywood today.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? He did thousands of skydives to do the scene in Fallout. I've heard
Yeah.
like he tested and doing
He did
thousands.
like 3 or 4 different takes of that stunt where in Dead Reckoning where he goes off a cliff on a motorcycle and then does a dive and then parachutes down. Like he
Mhm.
did the first take, it was perfect, went off without a hitch, and then afterwards his crazy ass is like, I can get closer to the motorcycle this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I got your prayer request due. Tom Cruise. Apparently, my nose is allergic because it doesn't want me to say anything about Tom Cruise. I don't know why, but Tom Cruise, he's one of the last few legitimate movie stars that's
Hmm.
still making it work.
Yeah.
I mean, his track record's been pretty good compared to a lot of other people,
Him and
other than the
Keanu.
Mummy.
I think him and Keanu are right up there for sure.
Well,
And
Keanu, if it's just John Wick,
yeah, yeah, you're
other
right.
stuff.
Yeah,
Well, Tom
sadly.
Cruise, you Edge of Tomorrow, Oblivion was okay. I liked
Yeah.
it. Mission Impossible films. I liked
Mhm.
Top Gun Maverick. So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
pretty
yeah, when you
good.
think about it, that's kind of sad when you
What?
really start to sit down and think about that, how Tom Cruise is like one of the last genuine, movie stars,
Movie
like
stars?
because there's just a lot of actors and actresses that they're good in their roles, but they don't have the same consistency, or they don't draw the same amount of money in the box office. And yeah, it just seems like, back in the day, like in the 80s and like the 90s and even before that, like you had stars that like you could just like, okay, you could name off multiple stars from different genders, and
Hmm.
it might even be hard to just only name 10 off the top of your head. Nowadays, like we've got Tom Cruise. And I mean, you could say some other actors are up there, but I mean, even some of the older guys, like Harrison Ford, isn't really what he once was.
No. I mean, other than, I mean, they really
I saw
screwed
the
him
trailer
over,
again
and
for Dial of Destiny in IMAX before Avatar 2, and that was just as blah and just as it ever was. You can see even in IMAX, you can definitely tell on an even larger scale that this is something where Harrison's barely doing anything on his own. There's just so much CGI and CGI stunts, and he's not doing a whole lot. Also, the more times I see this trailer, the more I hate the gag at the end. Like that just makes him look like a fucking bitch. The whole thing with the whip where he cracks the whip and then nobody's intimidated and then they start shooting at him and then he ducks and escapes from the bullets. I'm like, I understand that was like a comedic sort of thing in some of the other films, but he was still a
like
fucking
Temple of Doom,
badass.
like when he had the gun and he
Yeah.
can't find it, and then he runs.
Yeah, there's that. But that was like a callback to like the first the scene
Yeah,
in the first film.
but this
And
is
at
trying to be a
that
callback,
point,
and like, don't give a fuck.
it's a callback, but it's lame because they already did that in Temple of Doom,
Oh, I
and in
agree,
the
it's lame.
context of Temple of Doom, like it works better. But like, I would think if you're trying to do callbacks, and this probably is going to be the last time we see Indy, like I don't know why have him actually be a badass in that moment, not duck and cower and look like a
They would say
fool.
they'd say it's too unrealistic because he's so old. I mean, he
I
walks 2 feet,
guess.
he'll break his hip.
I guess
Like he was
so.
Kevin Nash.
I guess so, but it's
He'll
just
hurt his
another one of those
quads.
reasons why we don't need Indiana Jones in the afternoon nap. Because I saw a meme somebody did online, which was hilarious. It's like a drawing of Indy, and he's just like asleep in the chair, and it's like Indiana Jones and the afternoon nap.
Pretty much it. Indiana Jones and the Code for Geritol. I
uh,
It's not needed, it's not wanted, no one's looking forward to it. It's BS and barbecue. It's all
s-
stupid BS
yes.
bullshit. No
Speaking
one
of
wants it.
Avatar 2, because I mentioned it and I saw it today. I actually liked the film. I was genuinely surprised by how much I liked it. I thought it was better than the first film. It didn't have nearly as much forced preachy messaging as the first movie did. I thought the script, while it still had issues, I thought it was better than the first film in a multitude of different areas. It didn't need to be 3 hours. There are definitely a few scenes that could have been cut out entirely to improve the pacing. But the visuals are spectacular, amazing, and just jaw-dropping in IMAX 3D. And I've never seen CGI water look this real and immersive in any film. It was really impressive in that regard. And
I just
I will
prefer
say
real
this
water.
though, I do too. I do too. But I understand why it's CG and I understand why they did so. There are some shots where they did shoot underwater for real. But there's a lot of stuff that's CG because of, how the Navi is designed. But having the military guys be the villains again, but this time around they're Navi. Yeah, you try to do a little bit of a different spin on things where it's not technically the same bad guy, but it still is. So that was one aspect of the script that I wasn't that big on. I will say this, they toned down Quatrich's hoorah over the top ness that was annoying and grating in the first movie. So that was a nice thing to do
Mm.
there. Um, I like the new characters that they introduced, the members of Sully's family. Spider though is kind of an iffy character. It's some wild boy Tarzan wannabe kid with dreadlocks who is,
Mm.
I guess, the son of Quatrich. Because the sequel just throws in some random character development. He had a son, I guess, and it's this kid and he was adopted by the Navi, so he acts feral, but it's just silly to see like a teenage actor growl and snarl at the camera. Um, but yeah, having the same villains was just kind of like weak and to spoil it, Matt, because I know you're not gonna see it anytime soon. And for those of you who haven't seen it in the chat, don't want things spoiled. Um, maybe
Mm.
maybe mute the stream or something. I don't know. Um, but Quatrich lives, so he's still
Who knows
alive by
that?
the end of the movie. The Colonel guy, the Colonel guy, Stephen Lang's character, but now he's a
Oh yeah.
Navi, so he lives at the end of the film. His son saves him and lets him go, and I'm like, this character is not strong enough to be the main villain for the entire franchise. Like, why? It
Mm.
barely was strong enough to be able to make it in a second film.
I
Now,
still have no in. I
hey,
still
it's
have no
fine.
interest in it.
It's fine. It does have a lot more action in it though. Like a considerable amount
Mm.
of action sequences in comparison to the first film. So that did help the pacing it's some,
To
but the
me,
first
I
half.
don't care about the characters in the first, so I have
Mhm,
zero interest in the continuation in the second.
that's
Just
understandable. That's
yeah.
understandable.
But before I miss this, a few questions for you. I Live Again's asking, what's your thoughts on Deadpool 3 with Wolverine coming back?
Here's the thing. I am going to be approaching it with caution because it is Disney and it is Disney's Marvel during their current phase right now, which they've kind of been stumbling and bumbling and tripping over their own dick as of late. Um, and really not coming up to the same par of quality as years past. So I am leery about that, especially when it comes to them working with Deadpool. But the original writers, they are back on board. They have been back on board for a while. And they no longer have that inexperienced writer from Bob's Burgers working on the film, which is a huge mistake to begin with. And having Wolverine in there and having Hugh Jackman back, I think is great. And that's a major selling point. And that alone is one of the biggest reasons why this is like one of the last Marvel films in the MCU I actually am legitimately excited to see. Also because of
I'm
the fact
curious
that
about that. Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds' track record with Deadpool has been so spectacular and consistently good that I just have serious doubts that he's going to allow things to get fucked up, that he's going to allow things to go awry as badly as other Marvel films have done lately from what I've heard and from the clips that I've seen. Admittedly, I haven't seen these films and I will sometime this year because I want to tackle the MCU, but Deadpool 1 and 2 are just a prime example of somebody who's very passionate about the source material and legitimately cares about doing things right. And Ryan is that way about Deadpool. Deadpool, in many ways, is his baby. So I don't think that he's going to let things go to shit. And I think Disney at this point, considering the kind of underwhelming returns and of the recent
Well, they
phase and the fact
lost,
that
a couple hundred billion.
yeah, even though there's a lot of fans who like it, there's a lot of fans who are now more on the fence about the MCU than they were ever before. So I
No,
think they're
you heard
gonna.
that news, right?
I'm not
They've
surprised.
lost. They've
Yeah,
lost. This has been the biggest loss for them since 1973,
for
74.
Disney, yeah, not
Yeah.
surprised. But yeah, with Deadpool, I think Disney and Marvel, they're gonna take a step back and they're just gonna let Ryan do what he needs to do and then rake in the cash because that's the smart thing to do. And at this point, financially, they need a boost. So I think they're just gonna let them do what they need to do. The thing is, though, it got pushed back again, so it's not even coming out in at the time that it was initially announced in the little uh promo that Ryan and Hugh did. Also, the other reason why I'm super excited about it is Ryan and Hugh already have amazing chemistry with each other in the videos that they've
Hmm.
done on YouTube. So, and they're really good friends. And the only reason why Hugh is doing this is because of Ryan. So,
It's
it's
coming
not
out in
really because
2024,
it's
right?
I think so. It might have been pushed back to
Yeah, I think it is.
2025.
I think it's 2024.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm still curious about Guardians of the Galaxy um 3 because I really like the first two, but
I'm
I'm a
not.
little more leery of that one because it's probably going to be a somber send off. Um I don't think Deadpool 3 is going to be anything like that. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, Deadpool 3 actually I'm curious about. I look forward to. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, nope.
Mhm. What do you
But
feel,
before I
Matt,
forget,
about the backlash that Marvel got initially for Hugh Jackman being announced to come back? Because there were a decent amount of people online that were pissed for some reason that Hugh Jackman is going to be in Deadpool 3. They wanted some other
I don't get
new actor
why.
or whatever. I don't get it either because I'm like, so what you
I
want
don't get
is
it.
for Wolverine in the MCU to have to go up against the powder keg of personality that is Ryan Reynolds. The poor guy would get blown off his screen. It stand no fucking chance. And that would be his first
I,
introduction to the MCU. You're setting him up to fail.
Now you have another question here. Your thoughts on the show Wednesday,
I haven't
the
seen it
new
yet.
show,
I
Netflix.
saw the trailer. I was like, it seemed like they're trying to do a Harry Potter thing, but with Adam's family, with this school for, teens who are weird and have powers. And I'm not a fan of Jenna Ortega. A lot of people are talking about she's the next big thing, the next scream queen. Every film or everything I've seen her in, I've not been impressed. Like I didn't like her in X. I thought she sucked in Scream 5. So I'm not super into it for that reason alone, but I heard she's good in it, but I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't mind Wednesday Addams, but really like the character Wednesday Addams that I'm a fan of is honestly strictly the Christina Ricci take on that
I saw the
character
first
in the
episode of
Addams
this just as a
Family
request.
films.
I saw the
Mhm.
first episode of this just as a request. I didn't mind it.
Oh, cool. Good.
She actually, I thought, it's the only role I've seen her in. She did
Okay.
well because I think because she's such a wooden actress, that because
Ah,
she's so deadpan in this, it's actually a
yes.
good fit.
Yes. Okay.
She found the role that fit her.
Okay.
She did the
Good.
deadpan well,
Good.
and it was a
All
decent
right.
first episode. It was a
Is it
decent
was
first
it decent
episode.
enough for you to want to check it out more?
Uh, if it's requested, it's just I'm so
Mhm.
busy with other stuff. I'm not going to have time. If
Speaking of
it's request,
Wednesday,
sure.
there's a YouTube series, and I think it was also on another streaming platform at one point. It I think it's called Wednesday as well, and
Mm,
I thought it was pretty clever. It was pretty a fan did it, and it was like,
mm.
what if Wednesday Adams was in a contemporary modern time, like in the I think it was like mid 2000s or something. It was a fan made series. I thought the actress who
Okay.
played Wednesday in that, I thought she did a really good job.
But yeah, the first episode, it was interesting also that Morticia was played by Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah, I know about that. Yeah, and I know Gomez is played by
Luis Guzman.
uh yeah, Luis Guzman.
Yeah. Real quick, like before they disappear, I apologize. Fox was competing with MCU more than DC. Um,
Well, yeah, I
they
mean
weren't doing
because
a good
of
job competing then
no,
because they got bought out.
other than Deadpool, they weren't
X
doing
Men,
nearly as good of a job.
X Men were failing. That's where we're failing big time. I mean, look at Dark Phoenix.
I mean, even Fantastic Four. I mean, the first Fantastic Four wasn't even like a smash hit in the box office. It made a decent profit, but it wasn't like a huge bonanza of money for the studio. And then the second Fantastic Four bombed, and The Rise of Silver Surfer, and Daredevil made money, but it wasn't enough to get a sequel. And um, I think they also no Sony did Ghost Rider. Sony at one point was also competing with Marvel prior to
Yeah.
the MCU.
Now, Bobby has another question for you. Have you ever heard of these deep sea monster films, Rito and Raga? They're kaiju.
No, never heard of that.
Um,
Never heard of those two. Doesn't
well,
ring a
he
bell.
requested one from me, and trust me, you're not missing much.
Oh, okay.
If you want cheap, imagine a Godzilla film, but most of it's CGI
Oh,
and not miniatures.
oh, so
And
like
also imagine,
Gargantuan, because wasn't that mostly CGI?
yeah, yeah, I forget if it was called Reptilian Guardian. I
Oh
forget what it
yeah,
was
oh
called.
yeah, it was Reptilian, but I think yeah, that's what it was.
But I think this was actually worse because it's supposed to be characters we're supposed to like from the 40s and World War
Mm-hmm.
II. They defeat the monster, and then at the end of the film, they all die because it's World War II and the ship gets blown up.
Oh my god.
And then it's this artsy fartsy black and white where I swear, like Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD shows up. Like Kabuki guy, for some reason, is on the ship for a
What? Well, I mean, if that
metaphor.
happened, the movie would get better if Sergeant Kabuki Man showed up. Like
Yeah.
Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD, I think is one of Troma's most underrated films that they've done. Because I'm not super big on Troma as a whole, but I get it. I get a kick out of that movie. I think it's a fun one, and it doesn't get talked about enough. Oh, these
Now
fucking
let me answer
rumors,
this.
man.
I, I'll get to you. I'll let Mike answer in a minute. James Bond should not be thought of for at least 5 years. Give it a break.
Yes.
It's been a lot
Yes.
of movies,
They
a lot
already
of
killed him
decades. Give
off.
him a break.
They killed him off in No Time to Die. And then you're just
Yeah.
immediately gonna do another reboot like 2 years later. Like give it time to settle. Do a spinoff or something with some other sort of character.
Oh, and then
Do
a
a TV
spinoff, just take a
series.
break.
Do a fucking TV prequel series about Miss Moneypenny or something. Like don't have to do another 007 so soon. And if
I
you
don't care
are,
about Money Penny movie, but
don't
10, yeah, I agree.
don't
10 years.
fucking
Give it a
cast
10-year
Aaron
break.
Taylor Johnson. Don't
I mean, I
cast this
liked him in
guy.
Bullet Train, but not as James Bond. He's good in Bullet Train, but not as
Yeah, I've
James
heard he's
Bond,
good in
no.
that. I still haven't seen it
But
yet.
give it a 10-year break. Because how can we
Yeah.
miss you if you don't go away?
Hmm. But
Give it a
Matt, I
break.
mean, even though he was good in Bullet Train, from what you've seen, that's like the first film role that he was good in that you remember, right? Because I know you didn't like him in
Well,
Kick-Ass, but I liked him in that. But Kick-Ass is a different
right,
kind of role than Bond.
right.
And I mean, off the top of my head, he was absolutely awful in Godzilla as Ford Brody. Just
The 2014 film, yeah.
pathetic, terrible performance. He had all the charisma of a cardboard box, and then he was completely forgettable as a generic bearded soldier guy in Tenet. So
Yeah.
this is not really, in my opinion, James Bond
Was he in Tenet?
material. Yes, he was the guy with the beard who was the head of one of the teams at the end, who was there in the
Oh,
cave
okay.
or with Denzel Washington's
Huh.
son, who I didn't know was his son until
Okay.
after I recorded the video. I should have known better because he sounded like his dad, and I pointed that out. I'm like, stop trying to be Denzel Washington. And I was even like, you could have just. I know you liked him. I thought he was just pretty meh or just kind of bland. And honestly,
Hmm.
I would have liked like Jamie Foxx or maybe even like Denzel. That would have been interesting to see Denzel work with Christopher Nolan. Like if you're gonna have him
Hmm.
act like his dad to the point where he sounds almost identical when it comes to his cadence more than once, why not just cast Denzel Washington? Doesn't have to be a younger actor, a younger character. It could be an older guy or Jamie Foxx, because that would have been really interesting as well to see Jamie Foxx work with Christopher Nolan and be a part of a big epic Nolan movie.
I wanted to get
Yeah,
to this before. The amount of
Butter
disrespect
Knife.
MCU has shown Blade so far is ridiculous. The initial first draft was terrible, and Wesley says he's not been asked back. He's not going to be asked back. Your
No.
guys' thoughts. What
First off,
was it? The first draft had like 3 action scenes,
yeah, it had like 3
if
action
that,
scenes. Yeah.
and
It's
like barely any
PG-13.
action.
That's the other thing. It's PG-13. You can't do a Blade film and make it PG-13. That's like a PG-13 Punisher. That's not something that works. It's the same mistake they made with Ghost Rider. Now here's the thing, Ghost Rider, the second film was R-rated, but it was ass. It's terrible. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have it be rated R, because Ghost Rider is like Spawn in that regard. And they did that PG-13 as well. And that should have been a hard R. Blade is the same.
You want to see Blade? Go watch Day Shift
Yeah, there you go.
with Jamie Foxx. Like you mentioned Jamie
Yeah,
Foxx before.
yeah.
Like, just go watch Day
Also,
Shift.
the
Like,
casting, like this Ali guy, I saw him try to be Blade in Alita, and he sucked. It was butter
Mr.
knife.
L, the Batman is not Blade. The Batman's fine PG-13. The Batman and
Hmm.
Blade are two very different things. So I don't get what the comparison
Yeah,
is.
Batman
Like, you
doesn't need
think
to be
Batman should be rated
R-rated.
R?
It could
Already
be.
Spider-Man.
I think Batman could work, especially something like The Batman, like with a little bit more violence.
Could it work? Yes, but I'm not mad that it's not a Batman
Yeah, I'm
movie's
not
not rated
mad
R
either.
because that's that the Batman's not
Yeah,
the same as Punisher or Blade. Those are two different
yeah,
types.
or even Spawn.
I would see an R-rated Batman, but that's not the same. That's when
Mhm.
I'm not mad that there's not R-rated.
We've
It's
se
like I wouldn't be. What's another superhero?
I mean, they already did PG-13 RoboCop, so if they did that shit
Yeah,
again, then or Dredd. Imagine a PG-13 Judge Dredd movie. You'd be like, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. PG-13 Dredd. You can't have a
where
PG-13 Judge Dredd.
well, then they wasn't Stallone's film supposed to be that at first,
Yeah, they tried, but it was still too violent for Disney. So
and they should have went with it. Would have helped a bit better.
yeah, they cut out
Yeah, some of
scenes.
the
We already
animated
know there are
films.
scenes missing from that movie. Where are the deleted
Isn't
scenes for
the
Judge Dredd? I know the film's not highly regarded, but I would like to see that scene where he battles the clones because I think that would be,
mm,
could potentially be a decent sequence. And nope, it's disappeared.
and critically wasn't is the one with Peter Weller Batman, was that rated R? The animated film, The Dark Knight Returns.
I don't remember if it was or not. I think it might have been PG-13. Could have been I think could have been R, but it was definitely more intense than your average,
Yeah,
Batman. I mean, Batman
and that's a
Beyond,
really good
Return of the
one,
Joker, that was PG-13.
and that was really good. Yeah, Return of the Joker is really good. The Dark Knight
Speaking of
Returns, it was
Batman Beyond,
PG-13. That
god
worked well.
damn
That
it,
was
Warner
PG-13.
Brothers. God damn it. I get
What?
it. You want to start over, start from scratch, end the Snyderverse. I'm all for that. Why do you have to end Batman Beyond too? Because that's not a bad
Oh yeah.
idea, and you can still do it. I mean, it's you could look at it, it's a multiverse movie. It doesn't even have to tie into the current whatever plan that you have in mind.
I get that, but I blame more Zack Snyder for that. But here's the thing, and
Yeah.
this is a I'm gonna go on a tangent. Bear with me. James Gunn, I don't think deserves as much hate as he's getting right now.
No,
Because while
not at
yes,
all.
I would like to have seen the Batman Beyond movie, yes, but I get what he's doing because Zack Snyder
Mhm.
screwed it up so badly. Blame Zack Snyder, whether
I'm
you
not
like
just
or
gonna
dislike
blame
Man of
Zack Snyder.
Steel
I'm blaming everyone who was
and
in
Warner Brothers
charge at Warner Brothers
and Warner
because
Bros. As well.
they're the ones that decided to make Batman versus Superman the foundation for the DC cinematic universe because they didn't want to wait. They didn't want to build things up like Marvel did, which is ironic because they wanted to be like Marvel and have Marvel's success financially, but they didn't want to follow the same path. They thought that they could take shortcuts and still make the same amount of money. That's not how it works. And when you look at their financial earnings, which were way below expectations for a good chunk of these DC Cinematic Universe films, they fucked up. They should have been more patient. They should have just done Man of Steel 2, had a standalone Batman movie, and then just continued along the same sort of path as Marvel. And then have your big event team up movie in Justice League.
Here's what people don't understand about Zack Snyder. If you look back on interviews, this is a guy that got in the comic books for Watchmen. But
Mhm.
why did he like Watchmen? He said, I liked it because there's sex and people die in it. And
Mhm.
comic books before that, they weren't my cup of tea. They were goofy, they were silly, they were cheesy. But man, there's people getting killed and there's
That there were
You know,
people getting
sex in
killed
it.
and there was sex and all of that in other
Watchmen is
comics prior
cool.
to
This is what
Watchmen.
I want. Why do you think that's the guy to do a Superman movie? And now you know why Superman was so mopey, emo. S stands for shithead. No wonder. That screwed it up for you guys. Warner Bros. Deserves the blame as well for letting it happen. But Zat's got Man of Steel, and I think it sucks. I know you and others like it more. I think it sucks ass.
But I
And
mean, even though
then,
you don't like Man of Steel, you have to admit that trying to build the foundation of this entire cinematic universe based on Batman versus Superman was a terrible idea. And they would have been
well, they
better
built it
off
on Man of
doing a
Steel, and
Man
that
of
was a
Steel
terrible
2.
idea
Well, they
because that was
didn't
such a
because
divisive movie.
they didn't build
But
it
you had
off of
Henry
Man of
Cavill
Steel.
come in.
Yeah,
You had
but
Henry
that
Cavill
wasn't
and
the
the same
plan.
director.
That wasn't the plan. The plan was to have Man of Steel 2, and then Warner Brothers saw the success of the Avengers and then changed course. So the real foundation is not even Man of Steel because that wasn't even really the intent from the beginning. It was such a terrible, awful, poorly thought out plan by Warner Brothers.
Yeah. And Zack Snyder didn't help by making a Batman Superman movie that was so crappy. A movie with the two of them and Wonder Woman should have made
Yeah.
easily a
It was
billion and a
so
half dollars.
dull and boring in the theater. I was looking up and counting ceiling tiles while I was watching that in the theater. The best thing about that
Instead, he's
movie is that
yeah.
warehouse fight with Batman. And that's one of the only good things about that movie.
He made a movie so crappy, even Captain Marvel made more money. Think about that. Captain Marvel, $1 billion film, made more money than a Batman,
Yeah.
Superman, Wonder Woman movie with Doomsday in it. And yet no one wants to blame Zack Snyder. You had a
They want to
movie where a
praise the
jar of
Justice
piss.
League. They want to praise his Justice League, but that didn't make it barely anything in the box office. And if it did get a wider release, I'm sorry, Snyder fanboys, it would not have made millions of billions of dollars because it's a 4 hour long movie, and most people are not going to want to go sit down for 4 hours and watch a fucking Justice League movie in the
Well, they
theater
would
for that
argue
length
Avatar
of
2
time.
is
Yes,
over 3 hours. That made money.
it is. It is over 3 hours, but Avatar 2, I would say, even though Avatar was divisive, at least now, it still had more of a wider reach than a Zack Snyder's Justice League
But also, I remember
film
you
would
saying
have.
Avatar 2 was going to make that much money, and sadly it is.
Yeah, it's doing
It is, so,
it's the international market. I
yeah.
underestimated the international market dramatically. So it's easily going to
Mm.
reach 2 billion because of the
Yep.
international market. If we were just relying solely on domestic totals, then no, it wouldn't reach a billion domestically. I don't think it's going to reach a billion domestically.
Domestically, no. But worldwide, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Zack Snyder, I mean, he's Warner Bros. Is to blame, but Zack Snyder's to blame too. This is a guy
And
that
that's
he's
not
not a filmmaker.
yeah.
He's not a storyteller. He could be good at visuals potentially, but he's not a good storyteller. I'm sorry. His
Yeah, I
best
would say
movie
he's a
to
good
me is a
filmmaker.
remake.
He's a good
And that's
filmmaker,
Dawn
but
of the Dead.
he isn't the best storyteller. That is 100% accurate. It's evident in
He has
other
some nice
films.
visuals.
Army of the Dead. Like if that came out in theaters, that would underperform as well. I guarantee would have underperformed in the theater if it was a theatrical release. And so even when it comes to projects outside of the DC cinematic universe, its track record isn't the best. I mean, you could say
CM
he's
fan,
similar to
wait.
someone like Neil.
CM fan, he did another movie like Dawn of the Dead. It was Army of the Dead, and it was awful. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Zack Snyder doesn't know what he's doing. But sorry, go ahead.
He's similar to someone like Neil Blomkamp, talented behind the camera, but not the best when it comes to writing or storytelling. Very similar. And also similar in terms of track record, except that Zack Snyder had more opportunities for big budget blockbuster films and had more hits initially early on in his career. Well, Neil Blomkamp had like a sleeper hit in District 9, but it wasn't like, millions of dollars. And after that, his films underperformed.
Yeah, and films like Sucker Punch was awful. He's
Yes.
made quite some awful
But
movies.
visually at times, cool. But that's the problem. It's like, oh, cool visuals. It's not. And I've seen a
No
lot of people
story.
like they praise Snyder's DC films because, oh my God, that's exactly like the comic book panel of this Batman comic that I love. And I'm like, okay, cool. But that doesn't mean it's a good movie just because it looks like the comic.
But isn't that the same people they showed on Avengers Age of Ultron, which did the same, but only has
Mm-hmm.
better written characters?
Yeah. And speaking of that movie, I do not get the hate that film gets. I still don't get that. Like, I mean, I've seen people who are fans of Marvel like rank that as the worst MCU film, like below Captain Marvel and others, and I'm like, why? Like, because of Joss Whedon? Because of what came out after the release of the movie when it comes to the kind of person he is? I think it's a bit harsh. It's a good movie. It's exciting. It's well paced. It's got great action in it. It's got a good spectacle. And
Well, I don't think it's that
James
because people still
Spader,
like Firefly and stuff.
yeah, James Spader's Ultron is still one of the
A
is
lot of people don't
actually
like Ultron in that.
I don't get that at all. I thought James
They
Spader
felt he was
was
too weak.
fantastic
They thought he
because
got
of his
beaten too easily.
well, I mean, that the same can be said for a ton of different other fucking Marvel villains in the MCU. What is it? I mean, is it because Ultron is so overpowered in the comics that he got beat too easily? They still needed like the Vision and the whole other Avengers to defeat him. I didn't think he got defeated that easily, especially in comparison to the bad guy in Captain Marvel or some of the other villains in the MCU to date.
Don't ask me. I like the movie. I think it's a
But
fun,
yeah, James
fast-paced
Spader was
film.
great. I think James Spader is still one of the best MCU villains. Thank you. Yeah, it's a hat I got years ago. I still haven't played these games, but I like the
Yeah, I was going
hat.
to
I
ask.
like the
Like,
style. I like the style, and it was. I think I got it at. I think it was like it might have been a comic book shop or it was Spencer's or Hot Topic or something. I just like the style and the color scheme, and there you go. And vaguely, I knew Umbrella because I'd seen some of the Resident Evil movies, but you know, I still get compliments on the hat too out in public, so it's cool.
yeah, another guy. And that is a character from the Resident Evil games. So,
Ah,
Resident Evil
that's who
fans.
that is. Nemesis? Is that supposed to be
No,
Nemesis or some other
no.
name?
He's a guy who's like a mercenary who always wears that outfit.
Okay. Because
And
at first I was like, is this some alternate like Mr. Freeze? That's
no,
initially what I thought when I saw that. With the red eyes and everything.
that's cool. We agree, disagree. I mean, I mean, if you're talking about Marvels nowadays, I mean, it's kind of like
Yeah,
comparing
well,
rotten
it's
apples to old ass oranges. Like, do you want to compare a thumb up your butt or a rod up
also
your penis hole?
also it's our
Neither one I
opinion
want.
and
And
opinions don't necessarily have to be fair. Balanced or, somewhere along those
What's
lines.
okay? Do you want
They don't
this thumb up your
necessarily have
butt
to
or
be
do you want
fair.
this thumb up your butt? I don't want either one of my butt. And just like I don't want the bad Marvel films, I don't want the bad
Yeah.
uh
And
Mar
and
DC films.
if I'm being honest from what I've seen in the MCU, because I haven't seen a lot since Captain Marvel and Ant-Man and the Wasp. So from what I've seen up until that point, I just have to say, from my point of view, the majority of those films are way better than anything in the DCU. My favorite film from the DCU is actually Harley Quinn. It's Birds of Prey. I know Matt disagrees. He's not a fan of that movie, and that's cool. That's fine. But
Hmm.
I like that, but I don't love it. It's still a film that I think is like above average at the end of the day. There's not a truly great film in the DCU when there are great
Right.
MCU films for me in like phases 1 and 2 and maybe even 3.
I think we're totally being fair. Batman v Superman is an awful, terribly told movie with the whole Martha, why do you say that name? The jar of
Mhm.
piss blowing up in someone's face.
Even Man of
Jesse
Steel,
Eisenberg being an
as
awful Luther.
despite the fact that I like the film more than my friend and other critics do, I still only like it
Which
as like
one?
a Man of Steel, as like a spectacle,
Hmm.
for the action. I'm not really a huge fan of the film specifically for the story and for the characters. I mean, that's the reason why I only like it as like a time waster. I think it's like above average, is because of the fact that the writing is so weak at times. I mean, the way they handle Zod is lame. The stuff with Clark's dad is even lamer. I mean, talk to the hand. Like, what the hell was that shit? And then, of course, the stuff in Metropolis, where Metropolis is burning and Superman is kissing Lois Lane in what might as well be ground fucking zero. So, yeah, I mean, there that is flaws, but I mean, the Batman versus Superman is so much worse. It's longer for one, and it also screws up the first meeting between these two on film. It fucks up the world's finest. They were called
Why
the
should I care
world's
about
finest.
why should I care
That's how
about
special those two were.
a mopey, emo, whiny Superman pulling a ship? Uh, pulling the ship. Hate this shit. I'm tired of saying people. Duh.
Mhm.
I'm supposed to give a flying crap about that? Nope. I pass.
Also, I
Do not
hate
pass
how
go. Do
Batman
not
versus
collect $200.
Superman just shoves in the Doomsday angle. I hate it so much because I'm a
And
big
Doomsday
fan
looks
of
like a joke.
Death of
It's like Jamoke.
Superman and Return of Superman. Those are two of my favorite Superman comic book storylines. And just like what happened with the Dark Knight Pisses, they fucked up what could have been a slam dunk. Both they did it with the Dark Knight Pisses, with Nightfall, and then they did it here with Batman versus Superman. You should not have a death of Superman angle thrown in a Superman movie and then me feel indifferent when Superman dies and not give a shit and not shed a tear. You fucked up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Dark Knight, as I call it, the dipstick pisses. Yeah. And then Man of Steel boner
The past The Dark Knight
and then
Rises
Batman v
still gets to
Superman.
me is baffling. Like that film is dog shit. It's terrible. It's bat guano. Especially if you're a fan of the comic Nightfall. Just read the fucking battle between even everything leading up to the battle with Bane is so much more superior because Batman is exhausted physically and mentally because he has to round up all of these criminals who had got broken out of Arkham, and he does it. Can you imagine that on film? That would be awesome to see. Batman use his
Yeah.
wits and his physicality, and against all odds, he
Nolan's not
did
about
it.
that. He doesn't know how to direct things called action.
Yeah.
He's in
So
those
he
movies.
wouldn't even attempt that because he just can't handle that. But and then you have like the battle between Bane and Batman. That's what happens after all of that in that comic book arc. Batman does the impossible, and and now he's beaten down emotionally and physically. He's
Sorry, Maya,
worn
that's too comic book. It's too
completely
unrealistic.
thin, and then Bane
It's not
comes in and
realistic.
breaks him. And even then, Batman still puts up a fight. He still puts up a fight, even though he's got nothing left in the tank. And eventually, he's done. He's spent. Doesn't have anything. And then Bane breaks
No, he
him.
was too busy
And then
making a boring movie with barely any
yeah,
Batman in it.
he
He
breaks
was too busy
him.
doing that.
He lifts him over his head. He throws him to the ground. It's like, Gotham, here is your protector.
Too busy making a Bane with a wannabe Sean Connery voice if he was Darth
Yes,
Vader.
that
Yo,
too.
bitch, man. Are you ready to die? And then too busy
Oh,
having shitty
no,
punch effects. Eh,
no. I was born in the
too busy
darkness.
for that.
I was molded by it.
Hello there. Welcome to the DD. Fucking Sean Connery.
Yeah, Darth Sean
Fucking
Connery.
Bane. Bonehead. Boring as hell. Yeah.
Also, you take away the most intriguing aspect of Bane by taking away his venom. Well, now he doesn't have
It's
venom because
unrealistic.
it's not realistic. But neither is a flying
But,
fucking car and finding a way to. What did he did he do a No, there wasn't a cloning thing. There was just something that he was able to do to escape the bomb. I
hey,
forgot
Mike,
exactly
the
what it
whole
was.
unrealistic thing, let me ask you. Is there a fear toxin
No,
in Batman Begins? Is that
no,
real?
no.
So fear toxin is
I
real,
just
but
realized.
venom isn't real.
Speaking of Batman Begins, when I was watching episodes
Exactly.
of Batman the animated series, there was an episode in particular where the Scarecrow is poisoning the water supply with fear toxin. So you just
Yeah.
even that you just ripped off you ripped off an episode
They
of
haven't
Batman
seen
animated
that.
series.
I guarantee they haven't seen. They don't know what that show is because it would actually be good if they did. Uh, sorry, that's not realistic. Yeah, I mean, again, fear tox is realistic, but venom isn't. So again, very consistent.
Neither is a lot of the shit in the Dark Knight pisses.
I agree with that. Try to understand in that moment.
Yeah.
Hello,
And Mad
Doctor.
Max in Mad Max he was fucking mumble mouth.
He
Sounded
was
like he's
terrible
fucking
with Mad
Tim the
Max.
Tool Man Taylor is Mad
It
Max.
should have been Mel Gibson. I don't care what anyone
Cuz he
says.
was fucking
I know he
grunt
didn't.
he didn't talk. He said like 10 lines if I remember correctly in Fury Road. Most of it was just him grunting like he's Tim the Tool Man Taylor. Yeah, they should have had Mel Gibson.
Exactly. But yeah, fuck the Dark Knight pisses. And
And just because I'm
I
a fan of Mel Gibson, that doesn't mean I want to see Lethal Weapon 5.
no. I think all this started with me talking about James Gunn. I don't know if I finished my point, but I'm just saying I don't think he deserves as much hate as he getting.
No. No.
People saying he's doing the same thing as Paul Feig. Show me where he's not calling people sexist. He's saying, "Listen, I know people are gonna be upset. We
Uh-huh.
just want to tell the story that we can. Yes, there's going to be some people that take it to the extreme, which happens in every fandom.
Yeah.
But he said it respectfully. He wasn't being
Yeah.
a dick.
And there's
He
no
wasn't
proof
being Paul
of him
Feig.
there's no proof of him pulling a Paul Feig in terms of trying to make everything woke either. Because that's what I was reading for people. He's gonna make it woke and blah blah blah. I'm like, where's the proof of this? Because it's not in Peacemaker. It's not in the Suicide Squad.
He got mad because he said Superman wasn't as fun. I think what he meant was he didn't want the mopey, emo Zack Snyder
Good.
depressing Superman.
That's
And
not
people were
what
mad about
Superman
that.
is. That's not the core of his character. That's not who he has been for decades.
Well, they just say, "Well, you just try to copy Christopher Reeve."
They would say that anyway,
That's
no
what
matter
part where
what.
Superman was.
Exactly.
You want Batman in Superman. That's the problem.
Here's a good example of what you can do for Superman in films that separates it from Christopher Reeve. Take a page from
All the
Superman the
Venom.
animated series and what Tim Daly brought to that role. Take a page from that. I didn't think that was just him trying to be Christopher Reeve. He did his own thing with it. I think Henry Cavill could have maybe done something like that. I saw glimpses of that in Man of Steel, but they were so faint that you could barely even see them. And then by the time he did Batman versus Superman, it was completely erased. And then they tried to do it in Justice League, Joss Whedon's Justice League, and that just came across as forced.
Yeah, and
Yeah, frame by frame.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I was
Venom
never
is
huge
loosely
on
based
Henry
on
Cavill.
stimulants.
I was never huge on Henry Cavill. Maybe with the right director, maybe with the right script, maybe,
Yeah.
but
I'll say this about
I mean,
Henry.
again,
Henry,
yeah.
he definitely had a legitimate compassion and care for the source material and for Superman, and I think that's nice. And I think he could have fought back a little bit more when it comes to what they did to Superman in, Batman versus Superman, so on. But maybe he was sold a false bill of goods where they're like, "Oh no, this is just a transition thing. You're going to transition initially, eventually into this kind of Superman." But that never happened. At least not in any sort of lasting way. And on top of that, he did get fucked over. He got totally screwed by Warner Brothers, and I do
Hmm.
sympathize with him for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I sympathize him for that. I mean, that's Warner Brothers' fault, front and center.
Because it's not, I don't blame James Gunn
And
for that either. Like, there are people who blame James Gunn directly for that. And I'm like, that's just the fallout of what the decision is. James had no idea. He's not the one that brought Henry Cavill back. Warner Brothers did that before they even got Gunn on board to
mhm,
be this new head of creative or whatever. So
mhm,
Cavill is just the fallout of essentially ripping the band-aid off. That's basically what Warner Brothers and DC are doing now. They're ripping the band-aid off. And sometimes that hurts like a bitch, but it's for the best. And I think that's honestly the best thing the DCU can do right now is do that. Just tear down this shaky ass building that has holes in the floor and the wall and the foundation is cracking and start from the ground up and do it in a way where it actually can have a strong foundation this time around.
yeah. I wanted to mention this real quick. He was talking about the before with the Venom. It's so unrealistic, but it's loosely based on real military stimulants used in war. But hey, why do we need to look into that? And Psycho Hobo mentions
Yeah.
Henry looked the part, but he's just
Yeah.
kind of bland.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of a
Yeah.
bland actor at times and a lot of stuff he's been in. Like he is kind of bland and out of place in the Hellraiser sequel. He was in Hellworld. Um and he's bland in The Man from Uncle, which is why people saying, "Oh, Henry Cavill should be James Bond." I'm like, "We no, I already saw him in The Man from Uncle, and it wasn't that great."
Yeah, I'm not really
And
understanding
that's
the
a
whole
Guy
Henry
Ritchie
Cavill
movie. That's a
trying.
Guy Ritchie film. Like Guy Ritchie is a very accomplished director who does a lot of stylish, fun films with a lot of stylish, fun scenes and action. And Man from Uncle is easily one of his most forgettable films.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he just didn't. He hasn't really impressed me as of yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think more people liked it or liked him because of his personal, being a decent stand-up guy, which I can
Mm-hmm.
appreciate. But that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
equal this fantastic actor to me, at least not that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of DC, did you hear about the rumors that I don't buy these rumors at all, but there are rumors that people are sharing that DC might keep Ezra Miller as the Flash, and I'm like, I call bullshit on that. I don't know what these sources are. The sources are never confirmed. They're just like my source from the inside or whatever. Here's my thoughts on that. James Gunn and DC and Warner Brothers, they're not gonna say they're recasting him yet. They're not gonna do that yet. They're gonna wait till after the movie comes out because they still want to hold on to this hope that maybe the film will make a decent amount of profit. So they don't want to completely shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to getting, potential profits. Because if they just say, "Oh, he's done," and we're gonna recast him, then it makes the Flash even more pointless than it already is,
Well, I
and
mean,
could
if James
lose
Gunn's redoing the
potential
theme, then
box
they
office.
are. Then they
Exactly.
are
I know,
redoing it.
I know, but I'm just hearing people like, "Oh, he's gonna keep him," and I'm like, and then people are like, "Well, he fired
If they're
Henry
not keeping
Cavill,
Henry
but he's."
Cavill, they're not going to keep Ezra
I
Miller.
know, I know, I know, but a lot of these Snyderverse, extremists, they're latching on to some rumor right now and be like, "Fuck James Gunn, and we're gonna keep Ezra Miller, but they fired Henry Cavill." And what's funny is
Yeah, I
I've seen
agree.
some. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not gonna announce that it's gonna right before the Flash comes out. No, it's not happening. They probably can't. There might be like a legal thing or something, like between the contracts or whatever. They can't announce that yet.
Well, Peter Freak Out, you should know my thoughts on Andrew Joe already. This is the same dummy that gave the Callisto Protocol game a 3 out of 10.
Mhm.
And, he's a guy that gave Justice League like a 7 out of 10 or something when it came out, the
Angry
theatrical
Joe,
cut. So I know we
he's
have
a
different
fan.
opinions, but
He's a DC fan and a Superman fan, and I think that's nice and that's all and well. But sometimes fans, and I admit sometimes that can happen with me too, we can be biased. And I think Angry Joe
mhm.
is a prime example of a biased fan when it comes to how he is rating DC games, for instance, or DC films. The only Joe I want to stick with is GI Joe, the classic cartoon from the 80s. Not Angry Joe, not GI Joe Rise of Cobra, not GI Joe Extreme, not GI Joe Snake Eyes prequel that pretty much everybody and their mother already forgot about.
Yo, Joe. Yeah, I mean, I'll take Joe Armstrong from American Ninja.
Well, I'll take
American
him
Dude
too.
Call.
I'll take that Joe as well. Maybe
Joe
he can go meet
Montana.
Angry Joe. He can meet Angry Joe under that big fan, and then they can get in a brawl. And then we'll see who really is the best Joe.
I'm sure people don't know what that is a reference to. What was it that Michael Dudikoff tried to call out someone and we don't meet by
Yeah,
that fan or something?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He tried to call out somebody
I still don't
online.
know the full story behind that. It was just Michael
Yeah,
Dudikoff going, I call you out, we don't meet by that fan. I'm like, who was it? Like, what happened? I
I
still don't
forgot.
know.
I don't remember exactly who that is. But yeah, speaking of action heroes, did you hear about the Rocky Knockout Collection 4K set that's coming out from Warner Brothers? And how it includes both cuts of Rocky 4, which you've seen the Rocky versus Drago cut, and it's not really. uh, necessarily a good bonus from what I've heard.
No, it's
But they
not. It
include this
sucks.
documentary, which you think like, oh, Rocky 4 documentary. You're thinking,
About the
oh,
making of
cool.
the other cut
Exactly. That's what it
that
is.
was on YouTube.
It's not a documentary about, Rocky
Yeah, it's
4.
about how he made that cut. It was on YouTube for a while. Might still be on YouTube.
So after all this waiting, after all this time, still nothing. Nothing in terms of like a documentary about the Rocky sequels in an
Nope.
extensive form. Like there was that other that Rocky Legacy documentary.
Well, they're on fire both. They're just
They're
not
gonna
going to
fire.
do it
They're
right
yeah.
before the Flash.
They're gonna fire
They
Ezra
still want the
Miller's
Flash to
ass.
hopefully make money,
They're not dumb
and then
enough
they'll
to
fire
keep
his
him on.
ass.
See, that's the other thing that people don't. I don't get why anybody buys into these rumors, because he's dead. He is a dead man walking in Hollywood. Nobody's gonna hire his ass after he's done with the Flash. Nobody has hired his
No,
ass recently.
right.
It would be a PR atom bomb or a nuclear fucking strike for Warner Brothers if they kept his ass after everything that's happened. And in today's day and
Yeah,
age where people will get fired and are blacklisted from Hollywood for less, no, they're
yeah.
not
He's
keeping
done.
him.
He's done. And what was it? What was the thing we were talking about before?
I was just mentioning I was mentioning Rocky 4, and
Yeah,
the the Rocky set. Another and it's expensive because it's a box set, so it's like $80 to pre-order right now. And I'm like, I have the films on Blu-ray and I would like the 4Ks, but like I'm gonna wait on that because who knows? It could be one of those things where they release a box set later that has all six, like with Star Trek.
just wait. I'm gonna block this out. This guy's just being a crybaby bitch. You haven't answered my questions yet. There's like 90 people in here, and I'm having a conversation with my friend Mike. Like being a crybaby bitch. Goodbye,
Oh
Alberto Del
no.
Rio.
Oh no.
Sorry, there's over 90 people. It's hard to get to everybody. I'm having a conversation with a good friend of mine, doing the best we can. And then he just had all these snide remarks. He was making fun of frame by frame because he was sending in super chats. Oh, keep sending money, huh? And it's like being a dick. Like you want to
Yeah,
be a dick, be a
yeah,
dick somewhere else. Be a
yeah.
dick on your own time in the
It's like this
bathroom with
one guy on my Facebook that
finger
I
up your
was
pie hole.
friends with for not even a full month. And he just was acting just awful, just angry reacting to a post of mine and every comment that was negative about the Evil Dead Rise poster, and then was just being super defensive about it. And then he wound up blocking me before I could block his ass, which I find to be pretty funny. It's like, fine. Gonna act like a dick to other people, other friends of mine. Oh, they're gonna sue for what? For what?
Yeah,
That would be a really bad look on their part.
I don't know why I thought of Bill Murray from Ghostbusters. So like,
We're
they
gonna
didn't say he
sue
was going
your
to
ass for
sue.
wrongful prosecution. It's like, you go ahead and you fire us, and then we're gonna sue your ass for wrongful firing.
I don't think they're going to get far on that.
No,
I
because there's
mean,
nothing
I
wrongful
don't.
about it. I mean, Henry, maybe he might potentially. The rest of them, I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes at Warner Brothers, but I'm
How
pretty
come Ben
sure Warner
Affleck didn't do
Brothers.
that long ago when he was supposed to direct that Batman movie that never happened?
Yeah, yeah.
Because his one movie, Live by Night,
Also,
was such a bomb.
none of these people are in such dire need of money that I think they even want to go through all of that hassle.
Well, I wish them luck. I doubt they don't get much, but good luck with that.
I guess they got that the real reason they got fired by James Gunn is because they didn't use the magic word.
WB had the contracts. Well, I mean, I don't know what Ben Affleck has a contract. He's barely done anything. He kept talking about how he was not going to do it anymore,
Mhm.
and he kept changing his mind.
It depends on, the receipts. It depends on what roles they missed, out, and at the same time, I just don't really in
It depends what's the bottom line
America
on the
in particular,
contract.
we are so sue happy about the most frivolous shit, and this would be definitely one of them for me. And I mean, they're in their right to do it, but I don't
But
think this
in
would be
those
a good look.
contracts, there's a lot of other details that they probably didn't
Yes,
read, like certain
exactly.
special circumstances
Well, they probably
that will
did
try
read
to get
them,
them
their
out of it.
lawyers did, they probably did, but there's probably certain things where there are outs for a studio because there are a lot of instances where films get canceled, where and actors don't sue the studio. Film got canceled, something happened, a director fell out and didn't want to do the movie anymore, or something just happened in pre-production, and then the movie gets put on the shelf. The actors got paid, and I don't remember hearing any lawsuits for any of those instances. And there are a lot
Okay,
of
did
films that didn't work out.
remember the Dark Universe?
Yeah,
All those movies that didn't get made. Did
yeah.
they sue Johnny Depp and
The
who was it?
Tom Cruise,
Well,
Johnny
Tom Cruise
Depp,
had the Mummy, but like
Russell
all those films,
Crowe.
like they got their movie made, but like there was the Invisible Man, Johnny Depp. There was
Mhm.
the Bride of Frankenstein movie. All of them were supposed to get a movie. Did they sue?
No.
No, because shit happens, and I bet they had some type of contract.
Yeah.
Now, whether they gave them other movies or jobs or pay someone under,
That's
who knows? But
that's probably what happens in Hollywood a lot. And otherwise you'd see lawsuits right and left.
yeah. Real quick, like, sorry, man, I don't know what Deadzilla is, so sorry, I can't answer
Deadzilla.
you. Never heard of it.
Is it like a YouTuber or something? I haven't heard of
Is
Deadzilla either.
I've seen Godzilla's a Deadite in GMK. That was a cool movie. I've never heard of Deadzilla. Sorry, man.
That's how bad this Evil Dead Rise trailer is in terms of showcasing the Deadites. Is that Godzilla and GMK looks more like a Deadite than the Deadites
Yeah,
in
that's
Evil
true.
Dead Rise.
Yeah, but plain Dane, that happens all the time in Hollywood. There are plenty of movies that are in development for years, and
If they're in
it's a tricky
development,
thing with contracts.
that doesn't mean that as an actor, it's in development. But if there's a project that comes along and you really want to do it, and you're not working, I'm pretty sure you could find a way to get permission from Warner Brothers and go do that movie. I mean, I'm just especially if they're not gonna shoot right away or within a span of like a few months. I mean, for instance, Henry Cavill already did other films when he was shooting Justice League. Remember the
Yeah,
reshoots? The
Mission
reason why they had the
Impossible,
mustache
Fallout.
thing where they had to take the mustache off because he was shooting Mission Impossible.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they still have to make the choices they can. And
Yeah.
if you have any lawyer worth their salt, worth at all their salt, they would have something in there where pay or play,
Yeah.
whatever deal in the contract. They if
Yes.
that's what it is, like it's in the contract, it's settled. Okay, then they made the
Yeah.
right choice. If they didn't,
Because there's a lot of actors, they get paid upfront. A good chunk of the actors in Hollywood, they get paid upfront whether the movie gets made or not. And then that doesn't mean that they're actually, well, he was replaced for a good reason. not a good fit. He was not a good fit for Marty. Just not the right casting. Like even the people who made Back to the Future, who shot the scenes with Eric Stoltz,
Well,
they
yeah,
talked
I
about
know
how
that.
something was really missing. There was a spark that wasn't there, and they just felt like this guy isn't isn't gonna work, and that was a good move. That was the right move to make because Back to the Future went on to be not only one of the biggest hits of 1985, but one of the most iconic films of the 80s, in large part because of the fact that Eric Stoltz was replaced by Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, exactly.
And Back to the
Take care. I love you,
Future,
one, and the people out
when we
there. Take
think
care.
about it, yeah, take care. Have a nice night, and hopefully you have
But
a good rest of
what
your
were we
week.
saying about the?
But yeah, Back to the Future, people don't really realize how much of a risky film that was. And during the time of its release. It was a film that was passed around to numerous different studios, including Disney, who passed because of the whole stuff with the mother and the son, and they just thought it was a little too risque or whatever. There were other studios that might have been interested, but they didn't want to give it enough of a budget. And Universal decided to take a chance. Also, the director, Robert Zemeckis, he uh he was given a shot because of Romance in the Stone, which
Hmm.
that was a hit. So that did help him in terms of getting a shot, but he was still
Well,
a
the thing,
director in
like,
Hollywood that was kind of considered to be an iffy guy. Like
they made
he
their
did
choice
that
with
one
Eric
movie.
Stoltz. They
Yeah.
wanted Michael J. Fox. He was doing the TV
Mhm.
show, so they thought they couldn't
Family
get him.
Ties.
Eric
Mhm.
and Eric Stoltz failed. You looked at the footage bits, you could tell he didn't fit,
Yeah.
and you had
Yeah.
to redo it. And it was for the right decision because
Yeah.
it made Back to the Future 2 a classic.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, it was initially a risky project because you had this guy in Robert Zemeckis who did a couple films prior to Revenge in the Stone that bombed, and so his track record was kind of on the fence. And it, you had a film that without Michael J. Fox, like Christopher Lloyd is like the biggest name in the cast, and he wasn't considered to be like a huge box office draw. So there was that going on as well. And of course, the subject matter of the film and so on, which of course is rather tame compared to other stuff. But it just worked out. It was fate that Michael J. Fox would be Marty because that's who they wanted. That's who they envisioned in the role. That's ultimately who got it.
Yeah, exactly. And no, I don't think the Batman or Bullet Train are overrated. Don't
Yeah, I
agree
haven't
with
seen
that.
Bullet
Sorry.
Train yet. I do want to see it. I do have it in 4K. I do need to check that out. It's on my list of 2022 films to catch up on. But the Batman I liked a lot. I would say that's probably number 1 right now. I still need to watch some
Hmm.
more.
And yes, Megan looks like crap. We've talked about that many times before. It looks like a remake of Dolly Dearest.
It looks like a generic, typical 2020 horror movie with the jump
In
scares and
January.
the creepy doll and so on. And I'll just I'll just find if I want to see that kind of movie, I'll just finally watch the Child's Play remake because it sounds like it's literally the same thing, but with just a
It
sex
is,
doll.
and
She
Chelsea
looks like a
remake was
fucking sex
good.
doll. Really, that's what Megan looks like. She looks like one of those fucking sex dolls that you pay like thousands of dollars for that look
I mean,
lifelike
it's
and
a
whatever.
maybe for P to the E to the D to the O's because she's pretty small, but
I know,
I don't know about
but I'm just
sex doll.
saying
But
there are sex dolls like that, and it's
Victor
creepy.
Salva's sex doll.
Yeah,
So it's Victor Salva's sex doll.
Megan's actually not
I
that small. Megan's actually
oh,
fairly
See,
fairly
that's how
decent
little I
size
care because I don't know what size is.
compared
That's how little I care about
compared
the movie.
to compared to Dolly Dearest. Like Megan dwarfs. I mean, Megan is like way taller than Dolly Dearest.
Why does anyone look forward to that movie? I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
Again, they just ripped off the Child's Play remake, mixed in with Dolly Dearest. That's all they did.
Mhm.
And Child's Play remake was good.
And I like James. I like James
Just-
maybe because of James Wan, which I do like. I do like him, but
They didn't go see *Malignant*, despite James Wan. So,
yeah, yeah.
and that was a good movie.
Maybe it went. Maybe the whole dance in the trailer went viral, and that's why. Matt, we live in the day and age where if shit goes viral on
Dance the night away.
TikTok, things things go off for some stupid reason, which
I've
is
never been
annoying.
on TikTok, so I'm out of the
Yeah,
blue.
yeah. She was twisting
Out of
the
the,
night away. Speaking of, I rewatched Inner Space, and that movie's still a blast. Really like that film.
yeah. And someone mentioned Stone Cold. Stone Cold is a classic.
Yes, definitely. Watched that fairly recently again, like a few months ago. It sucks. I mean, Brian Bosworth, no, he's not the most amazing actor, but he didn't have to be in that kind of role. And
Mhm.
it is kind of a bummer the film didn't do better because there are a lot of films that have made more money in the box office that were a lot less entertaining and badass as Stone Cold. I mean, he blows up a helicopter with a motorcycle.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. And this is a very fun role. And yeah, Inner Space is a good movie as well. Yeah, that's one of Joe Dante's better movies.
I think that might be
Well,
my
underrated
favorite
as
of
well.
his. I mean, I really like Gremlins. I watched that again. I watched Gremlins 2 again. I still like Gremlins 2, but it's too much. It's just too much chaos, too much shit going on, too many gremlins. And
I
I
like
do
it.
agree with I do like it. I'm just saying it's just a little too much for me, especially the Daffy gremlin who's like bouncing off the walls and shit. I can't stand that fucking thing. Um, but it definitely has
My
more of a
favorite's probably The The
Muppet
Burbs is
movie
my
vibe
favorite.
to it compared to the first Gremlins, which I think had a better tone. But I still like Gremlins too.
Yeah, I probably enjoy them almost equally. It's hard for me to
Hmm.
pick. I might go with the first one, but I enjoy them
But I
equally,
mean,
but very
but
different.
I will say this. I mean, Rambo Gizmo is badass, and that alone is one of the best. It is definitely something that makes Gremlins 2 worth your time.
Yeah. And what the hell was the one?
I don't think we need Gremlins 3 though, right? We don't
No.
need another Gremlins. Like if you rewatch Gremlins 2, they
Wait,
almost
wait,
do
wait.
they
AB
do like
James,
everything.
I've wait. AB James, I've never liked the Fright Night remake. I don't know where you've said that. Where in my life have I ever said I like the Fright Night
He's
remake?
never said that. I've never said that either.
That's a garbage movie. Garbage film. I have a rant up on the movie
It's
on
a
the
waste.
channel.
It's a waste of Anton Yelchin. May he
Sally,
rest in
yeah.
peace. That's still like one of the most tragic things with Anton Yelchin because it was just completely out of his
Yeah.
control. Some freak accident.
Yeah, the car rolled onto him.
I mean, we easily could have lost Jeremy Renner to a freak accident recently as well. So my thoughts and prayers and well wishes go out to him because he's still recovering in
AB
the
James,
hospital.
I guess he didn't see my video because it was a rant. Maybe
I
you saw
liked
someone that looked like me.
I like Fright Night Part 2. I like the Fright Night reboot thing, New Blood. I know Matt's not as big on it, but I
No, I
like
didn't like that
that.
either.
But I don't like the remake.
Yeah, I never liked the remake. I have a video. Yeah, I did the video. It was a rant. So I don't know. Maybe you saw someone that
You
looked
don't
like me. Maybe had the
you don't
same
like
cast
Chris
or something.
Angel. You don't like Chris Angel, Mind Freak, Peter Vincent.
No, I don't.
Who's just a
I did not
fucking
like that. That was
loser.
really,
Yeah, he was a dick. Like Peter Vincent was a dick in that movie.
yeah, it's a fucking awful movie with that stupid
Where
CGI
yeah, and
fire thing where he grabbed the
Colin
guy,
Farrell and his
Dude
eyebrows.
Bro,
A deep
killing
bro
Colin Farrell.
vampire.
Colin Farrell killing the original Jerry
Chris Sarandon.
Dandridge.
Yeah. That was even more infuriating when you know the idea that somebody had for the remake that was just massively superior. The idea that was like a meta film where there was a fan of Fright Night who sees a vampire and then gets help from Chris Sarandon as Chris Sarandon. But it wasn't made because the fucking dumbass dipshit at fucking Lionsgate, I think, right? Didn't Lionsgate release that at the time? They were or Sony, whoever it was, the head of the studio or some shit or the production. They when the pitch was given to them, they were like, I don't get it. Huh? Yeah, because you're a moron. That's why you didn't get it. And because of that, we didn't get what could have been a really fun meta Fright Night reboot.
Yeah, I mean that concept definitely sounds better than the movie we got, but I guess that's the issue. If the movie sounds good, that's the one we don't get. If it sounds
Well, yeah, I
bad,
mean
that's the one we do
I mean
get.
that's what happened with Alien 3. Prime example of that.
Yeah.
Oh, the multiple firefights and two battles in zero gravity and two alien queens and humans turning into
Real
aliens.
quick, like I found the video, Fright Night remake rant. I did see the movie. I'm glad it's bombing, and it sucked my balls in my ass. That was
Uh-huh.
literally in the
Yeah.
info box
Yeah, that was
from 6 years
2011.
ago. No, 11 years
Yeah,
ago.
11 years ago
20,
when it came out.
20 minutes, 24 seconds. And I forgot I wrote that. I'm glad it's bombing. It sucked my balls in my ass. Hope you enjoy the review. Friday Night Remake from 11 years ago. God, that's in my
Yeah, that was
old
right.
room.
You were right. You were dead
Just
on
type
with
Friday Night
that.
on the channel.
And I did a
Oh,
I did a
I even
fair
did a video. Friday Night Remake, what could have been, and that was the idea you have
yeah, yeah.
that
It's
you
just like
talked
Alien
about.
3. No, let's not do the firefights and humans turning into aliens, any of that, and having Bishop and Hicks be the lead, and saving Ripley and Newt for other sequels, like uh, a smart producer or smart people would do for a franchise. No, let's kill off Newt and Hicks, and let's also have a script about monks on a wooden fucking planet. Let's greenlight that script, spend millions building sets, then realize this shit is stupid and unfilmable, and then scrap it, and then start over. And then instead of, like, I don't know, going back to the William Gibson script, no, we go to this script that we come up with out of our ass on the set of the movie about a prison planet, and we have to have Ripley in there because the franchise is Ripley. It's not Alien. It's Ripley because she's the only reason why the franchise exists, apparently, according to these producers. Some of which were the producers of the other films of the franchise. It makes it even more frustrating. So we gotta wait for Sigourney Weaver to agree to do the movie because otherwise we don't want to do it for some fucking reason because the franchise is just about Ripley. So get her, pay her a record amount of money. She only does the movie on two conditions: if her character dies and if there are no guns in the movie. And then you get Ripley, you get Sigourney Weaver, but you kill off Newton Hicks and Bishop and make the previous film completely fucking pointless. Then you have shit on a prison planet, and then you make it depressing and soulless and edgy, and all you do is just make a lame version of the first film that's boring. And then you kill the franchise. You shoot it in the fucking head with a shotgun. But no, we don't want to go, like you said, we don't want to do the ideas that are good and have potential and, you know, could at least help the franchise going forward. Let's go with the stupid shit instead. And speaking of stupid shit, RoboCop remake. There we go. There's another stupid fucking thing for you from Hollywood. Right off the bat, when it was announced, it's PG-13. That was a massive red flag because it's like, we already did this shit with RoboCop 3, and that was lame and shitty and embarrassing. RoboCop getting knocked on his ass multiple times throughout the movie like he's a bitch. And then
Do you
sounding
like
like he has
the
problems. And he thinks he's
yodeling
Batman
montage?
from Adam West's Batman series. Don't count on it, chum.
You
Oh
like
yeah,
the
the
yodeling
yodeling. Yeah, I love
montage?
that. I love that sequence. It was so great to see in the theater in IMAX. It was incredible. No, not even in the slightest. So yeah, you make it PG-13, which is already a mistake that the franchise already did years prior. And okay, it's PG-13, and you know, you would think at least they would, I don't know, not mess with a good thing, like not mess with the design. Like the design is good. It's a good design. Don't need to fuck with it. Don't need to mess with the RoboCop design that much. In fact, I saw fans do like fan made ideas of what the suit would look like, and that was a million times better than what they ultimately went with. Even the gray version, because even the gray version of the suit was fucking shitty in the remake. But yeah, nah, let's fuck with a classic. More in more ways than one. Let's fuck with the suit. Let's make the gray version look like ass and look more like it's some Iron Man wannabe or Batman or a fucking Power Ranger. Then I'll paint it black because the quote Michael Keaton's character in the movie, it's tactical. It's stealth. Stealth and tactical. I guess that's the only reason why you need to paint it black. Not because you want people to be reminded of Batman, because that's really what it seems like. It seems like you confuse RoboCop with fucking Batman. So, all right, you have that. You completely lose the satire, at least good satire, because I'm sorry, the fucking stupid Fox News report nonsense with Sam Jackson and that
You
doesn't
didn't
count
like the
to
way
me.
it opened
Oh
with
yeah, the
the
opening. How about that? I was completely stunned in the theater when that was happening. Like I could not even believe what was going on. I can't even put into words, folks, what I was thinking and what would how things were just going in my head at that moment because it was just so fucking flabbergasting. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm not even to the opening credits yet, and I'm already pissed off at this fucking movie. You couldn't even wait. You had to, as soon as the MGM logo pops up, you're fucking it up. That's a record. That is a record, Matt. I can't think of any film since that has fucked up that badly as soon as the logo of the studio appears on the screen. Can you?
yeah opening. I mean no. I mean even Alien 3 took about 5 minutes before it did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And they weren't like,
that
there wasn't like Newt screaming her head off at the fanfare of the 20th Century Fox logo. You know, you didn't have
Yeah.
that going on.
Surprised they didn't. RoboCop remake. Oh, God, man.
But yeah, Sam Jackson doing his voice warm ups, and that fucking Bill O'Reilly knockoff show that doesn't count. So okay, you take away the satire, you take away the R rating, you have the action done in the typical generic lame ass way that a lot of PG-13 action films were at the time, with a lot of shaky cam and bullshit. Then
Oh my God. Someone said RoboCop 2014 was better than Dread.
oh.
Schmoes know, known as Mark Ellis.
Oh,
I
is
guess he
that the
hasn't
Schmo?
seen a lot of good
Oh, the
movies.
Schmoes No guy? Oh, that guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
Schmoes
said some
know.
things. He said some things in the past where I'm like, yeah, you are a schmo.
How? How
Don't
is it better?
know.
How?
I mean, the
How
1995 Judge Dredd film, as disappointing as that is at times, and as
is
annoying as Rob
better
Schneider is
than
in that movie, it's better than
is better
RoboCop
than
2014.
I agree with that.
But yeah, RoboCop 2014 had the same annoying shaky cam bullshit from a lot of other action films at the time. It also made a really dumb decision with RoboCop where they decided to they got the wrong idea of the whole scene where Morton is like, lose the arm. I said total body prosthesis. Like they completely got the wrong impression of that. Oh, we should have the arm then. Or in this case, a hand. This is a fucking human hand for no
Stick the
reason.
hand up his ass.
And
Should have just
that
stuck it
also
up his ass.
undermines that whole scene that's supposed to be
Use it for a can
unsettling
opener.
when they show him just as like a head and lungs. Like that's supposed to be an unsettling, like body horror, David
He should take
Cronenberg-esque
that
sort of
hand,
scene.
stick up his ass, and use it as a can opener to take the shit.
But instead of that
Fuck that
sequence
movie.
working and being effective as an unsettling sequence of, oh my god, look what's left of him, it's laughable because he's got the head and the lungs, and then just this fucking hand that's just sitting there. So they couldn't even get that right. They couldn't even get the whole origin of RoboCop right in this remake. When he dies, it's the most lame shit imaginable. He gets blown up by a car bomb, and then on top of that, he doesn't even necessarily die in the same way as Murphy. You know, he doesn't have like a tragic, like, oh my god, he got blown to pieces. Like, there's nothing like that. He gets blown up, it happens off screen, and then he's in the hospital, but with the way that technology is, we've already seen that he could get robot limbs that could work pretty well. So it's not like he's dead anyway. So then he just gets a suit. Where now he's a suit. Now he's Superman. Now he's Super Cop. And also I've seen people say this about the remake that, oh well, you have more scenes with Murphy and his family, and that's stronger than what you have in the original. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly because it just makes things more boring and generic with his boring generic family and scenes of him trying to
So
emote.
when you mentioned he died like Inspector Gadget died, getting blown up.
He did. Oh my god. He did. That's fitting.
That
Because what was
that
one
fucking
of the
movie.
last RoboCop properties before Prime Directives was Alpha Commando. That embarrassing ass fucking cartoon series where RoboCop has a pinhead and they turned him into Inspector Gadget. So that's kind of fitting that the RoboCop remake it gives him the Inspector Gadget origin.
Let me answer this real quick so I don't forget. Uh, that's hard to mix them together. So I'm say like the five Rambos and the first three Ninja Turtles.
Mm.
For me, it'd be Rambo 2, Rambo 3, Ninja Turtles 1, Ninja Turtles 2, Rambo 4, fuck Rambo 5. I'll put that next, and then fuck Ninja Turtles 3 because that's the worst of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the worst is all the Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtles. That's at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom. dump in a ditch.
Are those even worse than the We Wish You a Turtles Christmas and
Yes, because at least
those
those are
ones?
only a short. They're at least they're
Yeah,
short, and they don't
yeah,
have Mikey farting on his brother's faces,
yeah, yeah. And
or
then
Mikey
talking
talking
about
about
his
his
child,
erection
yeah, his erection. Yeah.
because he sees Megan
Uh,
Fox.
so I would rank the
Because
Rambo films.
Mikey's gotta have a boner.
Number one would be Rambo 3. It's a big budget action epic.
Love Rambo
The
3.
the like Lawrence of Arabia, but with 80s action movies. Like that's really what Rambo 3 is. It's a kind of
It's
epic
epic.
scale action film we'll never see again. Ever.
Sadly, no. That'd be all CGI.
And
Too bad.
then I would have First Blood. And
Oh yeah, First
then
Blood. How could I forget? First Blood would be after Rambo 4. I put First Blood.
I'd probably have Rambo 4, and then I would have Rambo 2. It's not that I don't like Rambo 2, it's just I like
Hmm.
some of the others more.
Yeah.
And then I would have Rambo Last Blood or Last Dud because it's a fucking dud of a movie. Um, and then with Turtles, Turtles 1, then Turtles 2, then of course, Turtles 3. I mean, the only one I really like though is the first one.
So
But
I
yeah,
like the first two.
the RoboCop remake. There's so many things wrong with that fucking thing. The callbacks to the original were just insulting. They didn't even seem like they were nice homages or callbacks. It was insulting, lame as shit, like Tin Man.
See, that's another thing.
Oh,
When people say me and Mike always agree on stuff, he doesn't like See Through the Ooze, and I really enjoy it. So
like I
there
don't
you go.
hate the film, but I just don't think it holds up as well as an adult. But there are still things that I
Hmm.
do enjoy about it. Also, here's another reason why we are very different. I love Hook. He's not a big fan of that film. He definitely doesn't
Right.
like it nearly as much as I do.
How you feel
Um,
about Hook is how I feel about See Through the Ooze. That's the best way to put it.
there you go. There you go. But yeah, with RoboCop,
Nothing wrong with it.
even insulting callbacks, the Tin Man thing with if I only had a heart, you got the wrong idea there. Yeah, they called him Tin Man, but it was a joke. And it's not something that's supposed to be like, oh, now he's in a montage, and let's have Wizard of Oz music in the background. And I buy that
Jesus
for
Christ.
$1, like one of the laziest callbacks ever. Like it didn't even make that much sense in the context of what was being said. And you even waste Michael Keaton. This is Michael Keaton we're talking about. And even he doesn't even seem like he's delivering that great of a performance. I can't blame him that much because he's not given much to work with.
Not really, no.
And of course, when it comes to RoboCop remake, you can't talk about it without talking about Joel Kinnaman, who is a terrible RoboCop.
Joel Kinna did a what Kinnaman.
Just awful. You didn't buy him as
Joel
a
Kinna
cop.
did a job Kinnaman.
Yeah. You didn't buy him as a cop before he got blown up. So, unlike with Peter Weller, where, you bought him in that role. And also at the same time, the Peter Weller, like there was enough with him as Murphy in the first film where you liked the guy. There was something about him that you connected with. With the stuff with his kid and TJ Laser and he just spin the gun or just the little scenes that he had with Lewis. In the remake, he just comes across like a jerk. Like you don't like the guy. He reminds you of like John Cena at his worst. When he's just burying everybody. And then speaking of Lewis, one of the most pointless race swaps ever. Total pointless race swap. Total pointless gender
Yeah.
swap. This is an example of a gender swap from female to male that's pretty awful. because it's completely pointless. And on top of that, it's a nothing role. So it does a
Yeah.
disservice to Lewis as a character. And without the R rating, you don't have the edge when it comes to the action. You don't have the edge when it comes to the humor or the satire. And the villains. I mean, Michael Keaton, he was bad, but the other guy, who was the one that set the car bomb, who was the Valen or whatever the fuck his name is, might as well have been Jimmy Fallon. Had about the same effectiveness as Jimmy Fallon would have
Maybe it was
as a
that
villain.
Frost from G4. Maybe
Oh,
that
G
was the villain.
Frost. Like, yeah, this guy, he is a nothing character compared to Boddicker. Like Boddicker's an iconic, memorable, fun bad guy. All of the bad guys in that were fun and memorable, including Dick Jones. Dick
Yeah.
Jones wasn't the only one. And this Valen guy and his thugs are so generic and lame. The guy gets killed, and there's nothing. He's the guy who killed He killed Murphy. He's the reason why Murphy is this half man, half machine, and the death is an afterthought, just like this movie. It's an afterthought. It's in the $5 bin and used Blu-ray stores everywhere. Everywhere I go, I see copies of this fucking movie that are
But
unbought,
someone mentions that you find it for
unsold.
$1.
Yeah, unbought and unsold. Because people are like, fuck this shit. Fuck RoboCop. I don't want that. Not even for $1. So yeah,
No.
I mean, there was a Big Lots near me that had like rows of DVDs of this movie and like multiple copies on Blu-ray. And then I remember going back like months later and they clearanced them. They marked them down and people still weren't buying this shit.
I don't blame them.
So
Why
fittingly,
would you?
this is what happened. They got thrown in the trash, which is where they belong.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely do.
But yeah, it's sad when it comes to RoboCop. Like that, the reason why I wasn't even excited about RoboCop Returns is because this is a character that has been drugged through the dumpster and the toilet for so goddamn long that he just needs to be retired unless you get stuff like in Mortal Kombat or an animated show or something. But in terms of like a movie or anything, like just let Murphy rest in peace because you just every time you reboot him, you fuck him up more. You had RoboCop 3,
Well, I mean,
RoboCop the series. I've seen more episodes. Richard Eden did a good job. The show has its problems, but Richard Eden is not one of them.
but to be perfectly honest,
Mm-hmm.
you say that for most characters
Yeah,
that just been completely butchered.
sadly.
We
I
look
mean,
at the age of today.
it
Most
happened with
characters you can
Rambo.
say,
It happened with
yeah,
Rocky.
Han Solo, Luke Skywalker,
It's gonna happen to Indiana Jones.
Ninja Turtles, steroid
Mm-hmm.
abusing. Look like if Shrek and Goomba had a baby. They look like the Michelin Man.
Terminator happened to Terminator.
Yeah,
You
let's
could
just look
argue
at Dark Fate.
it started with T3 because T2
Yeah,
pretty much ended things in a way where it's like there really isn't anywhere else
Fate's
to
what we
go.
make.
But yeah, Fate is what we
Fate,
make. That's it.
and then T3's like, nope, psych. Fate is
Yeah.
what we make, and there's no change. And everything you thought was BS. That was a good story, apparently.
And speaking of talk to the hand, then you have that cringe moment in T3.
Put the band. Ghostbusters Afterlife, where they dug
Yeah,
Aaron Ramsey's
sadly,
ghost out of the grave to
sadly.
manipulate you emotionally.
Uh,
That was
God.
emotional manipulation if I've never.
Yes,
I can.
it
That is
worked.
100%
It
emotional
worked.
manipulation.
It worked initially for me when I saw it in the theater. I was crying. But then I watched it again, and then I thought about it more, and then
Because
I'm
you're
like,
remembering Harold Ramis, yeah.
yeah, and then I'm like, this is honestly kind of fucked up. It really is.
Yeah, you're using a guy who has no say in it and saying we're going to kill his character off. We're going to make people think he was a deadbeat dad, and that Dan Aykroyd says Edon can burn in hell, which he would
Yeah, that
never
is
say that
so
ever.
bad.
You look at even in Ghostbusters 2, the
I
way
don't know
Dan
why
Aykroyd
Dan didn't fight back more on that.
took a paycheck. He didn't care.
But
They
here's the
don't
thing.
care.
I guess they don't care as much because if you think about it,
Not anymore.
they have a fair amount of creative control over anything Ghostbusters related because it's still in the contract that anything that happens with the script and with anything like that, they have to eventually sign off on it. That's why Ghostbusters 2016 needed all of them to come to an agreement because of the contract that they had signed. So
Hmm.
Dan could have easily been put his foot down and be like, "No, I'm not." He's not saying that. And technically, the only reason why it's even made is because I agreed. We agree upon these things in the script. Um, but then again, Dan Aykroyd, because he's the one I think that was involved with the one of the earlier drafts of Ghostbusters 2. The one that was just fucking weird and inane and just completely idiotic about Dana and they went to Ireland or some shit and there were fucking fairies. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I
a
know.
really bad script. So Dan he's clearly I think he's talented as a writer. I think he's at his best when he's got Harold. When he has Harold to work off of. Yeah.
I forgot I said
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
You did a Harold Ramis, parade him around like a sequel to Weekend at Bernie's.
So
Yeah, I
Weekend at
did say
Bernie's
that.
3. Weekend at Egon's.
Yeah, Stream 5 as well. Yeah, with Dewey.
I hated that shit. And yeah, Scream 5 is fucking bad. They also they had that weird shit with what's his name? God, it was one of the killers in the first movie and his ghost shows up.
Steed Ulrich.
Yeah.
Um, Forgot the character's name, but Steed Ulrich's character.
Yeah, one
Billy.
of your
Billy
lead
Loomis.
character, she's
Billy
having
Loomis.
fucking hallucinations of a serial killer and he's having this whole moment in the climax where he's like, "You go, girl, get him. You get that killer. You get that ghost face. Do it for me. Do it for Billy." Instead of like, "Do it for Johnny." We do it for Billy. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because Billy was the killer. What the fuck? Yeah. Yes. Return of
Yeah,
the
Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters.
2, Dan Aykroyd had a script where it would be in Scotland and that just Dana would be kidnapped and they would go into like a ferry underground with like a
Yeah.
tunnel that was like 2,000 miles long. It would
Yeah.
take them
Yeah.
like 3 days to journey. It
Yeah.
was really insane. And the Ghostbusters 2 is the better one we got. Although I'd rather see that than Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I don't know. Here's the thing. Here's the
I
thing with
would
the Egon.
because
Like, if the Egon
Afterlife was
stuff,
just such a remake of the first and
yeah,
just
and
lazy.
that's what I'm saying. Like, the Egon stuff is manipulative, but it was
It
still,
is.
it was well done. At least in some of the, at least in the end, in a few scenes. Not
Not
necessarily
to
the
me. I
deadbeat
thought it
dad,
was really insulting.
not the deadbeat dad stuff. I think if he wasn't a deadbeat dad, and you didn't have the whole like Egon can burn in hell, because I think there is a way to, because I had pretty much how it happened with him, with the other guys side by side. That's what I had in my head. So it did kind of play out similarly to how I would have done it, but I just would not have done it in such a lame way in terms of like not getting these characters. They would never tell Egon to burn in hell. That would never happen in a million years. And having him be a deadbeat dad is lame and insulting. And then just also if it didn't just do the same plot as the first movie, but boring and not funny, then I think and if these newer characters were better and
Pretty
if they
much, if the
weren't
movie was a
kids,
good movie,
yeah, exactly.
pretty much, hey, if the movie was a good movie, then maybe a good movie.
I'll
That's pretty much
take
what he's saying.
I will take Extreme Ghostbusters as a spinoff. I will take that over Afterlife.
Yeah, I would too. Overrated damn movie. Afterlife sucked. They got a lot of praise.
And it's getting a sequel,
But hey, what's your
Firehouse,
piece of
which is a
Yeah,
dumb
should be a
title.
fire sale. The whole franchise should be a fire sale. Well, actually, we talked about this before, but since you said in the super chat, we'll talk about it one more time.
Hey, by the
Um,
way, Ducks Flying V, love the profile pic. Uh, huge Mighty Ducks fan. Love the first two at least. The third one I'm kind of on the fence about. I haven't seen Game Changers though, and I'm very leery about it because of what they do to Bombay. It's another one of those let's deconstruct the character. He's a loser. And let's also not only that, let's make the Ducks a bunch of fucking assholes. And let's just remake the Mighty Ducks again, but this time they're called like loser or some fucking stupid ass name that doesn't make any goddamn sense to call anyone any hockey team. That
they're called the
fucking
Mighty
insult.
Fucks.
Yeah. Might as well have been because it seemed
The
like
Mighty
Game Changers
Fucks.
was like, hey, fans, yeah, we got some nostalgia for you with Emilio Estevez and some of the other Ducks actors who come in for cameo, but fuck you because Bombay's a loser and the Ducks are a bunch of dickheads now and they're just the Hawks from the first movie. So you haven't seen
You
it yet, but
fascists, come to our party. Be a
I
Mighty Duck.
they're a bunch of cake eaters.
Mighty Duck Fuck. All breaked-in duck fucks. All duck fucks. Flying a
But
V for
yeah,
vagina.
Evil
But
Evil Dead trailer, very generic. Might as well call it generic horror rise.
pretty much, like we said before, it looks like any number of films, The Grudge, The Ring, all sorts of typical wannabe steer moments. Nothing, I mean, it's got gore, but nothing much streams Evil Dead because Evil Dead streams creativity,
And they
ingenuity, crazy
didn't even
creatures.
change they didn't even change the setting that much either. It's just a small apartment instead of a small cabin. They could have
Evil
done
Dead,
the
we
high
remember,
rise thing
yeah.
and that would have been cool. It still might have sucked, but at least would have been something kind of unique. I know Demons 2 did it before, but other than Demons 2, it's not really a fairly common thing. I mean, you had Poltergeist 3, but that was a piece of shit too, with Richard Firecrotch. Or Carol
Like
Ann,
we mentioned before,
she's manipulating you. It's all an illusion. She's just hypnotizing everybody. There's no such thing as ghosts.
with the we remember Evil Dead for a lot more than gore. Remember
Mm-hmm.
for being a franchise based on a male lead like Ash, all the personalities drawn though. We gotta have it be another
I mean,
woman
even the other
because
characters
all supposed to be
in
women.
Evil Dead, like even the other characters, either in the first movie or in the other sequels, they showed more charisma. They showed more personality. The fucking wizard guy in Army of Darkness, who has like very few lines of dialogue, he has more
Yeah.
personality than anyone in the entire trailer. That's a problem.
Well, that's acting nowadays. No personality. Apparently. Can't have
I think
charisma. That's against the
I think
law.
they just suck. I just think a lot of actors
Well, that
suck.
too. And Evil Dead was about creativity of light bulbs filling up with blood and crazy things happening with different creatures and animals
Stuff
and
with the
lampshades
multiple
laughing at
different
you.
the whole stuff with like the 3 different books, the 3 different Necronomicons and Army of Darkness, and how one would like suck you in, or the other would do something else, or would
I
bite
mentioned Evil Dead
you, try
1
to eat
when
you.
Ash looks at the mirror and it's made of
Yeah.
water and he
Mhm.
freaks out and the screen projector that blinds him and just bleeds. Talk about painting the screen
It's a
red.
great mix of horror and comedy, like in Evil Dead 2, where you have that gross out moment when they stomp at Henrietta's head and her eyeball pops out and flies into that woman's mouth. Like, it's
It
gross,
looks like
but it's also kind of
it just
funny
looks like it
because of just how over the top it is.
it just looks like a generic demon movie where even
Mhm.
the spider walks. You could name a number of exorcism movies that have done that.
Also, the music, that doesn't help either. Like, just another one of those slowed down versions of a classic song. And this instance is Que Sera Sera. And I'm like, leave that shit to Heathers. Like, don't be putting that in there.
That's another thing they need to stop doing. Stop taking these old songs and trying to be creepy. It's a bit of an old motif now.
Yes. 1,000 times yes.
They just keep doing it. I mean, just
It looks
repeat
like
over and
not
over
only
again. It just
another
gets
generic
old.
horror movie, it just looks like Evil Dead Remake 2.0. It looks like it's made by the same guy. It looks like it has the same style for the most part in terms of the cinematography, except for maybe a
It
few
might
little
as well be a
differences here and
sequel
there.
to it. I thought the lead
Yeah.
was the same girl for a
Mhm.
second. It might as well just been Evil Dead 2, The Rise of Cobra, whatever the hell, the rise
The
of
Rise of the
Tate,
Dead Dick.
the rise of the dead fucks. And
Exactly. Remember the Evil Dead was the Evil Dead fuck? The computer don't lie. Well, this is Evil Dead fuck rise. And the computer still doesn't lie.
Rise of the Limp Dicks. It's too limp, it won't rise for this one. So, I mean, Evil Dead Rise, it looks as generic as I thought it would be. And again, it looks like any typical demon possession movie. There's nothing in it that brings the creativity and uniqueness of Evil Dead, even the point
But
of
but
you can't even have a male lead anymore, which
but
made
it's
Evil
Evil
Dead
Dead.
unique.
But it's Evil Dead and there's gore.
There's gore in 800 movies you can mention.
I know.
There's gore in Dead Alive. Go watch Dead Alive again.
Thankfully, though, I have seen a fair amount of comments on one of the trailers where there's a good amount of Evil Dead fans who are like, "I'm not seeing this. This looks like shit." And there's no Ash, so I don't give a fuck.
Right.
But there's a lot. But
I mean,
there's a lot of people though, and I've noticed this, and I think it's just a thing in general. It's not just the horror fandom. It's a lot of fandoms, and it's not everyone in the fandom, but there's a rising number of people in these fandoms that have lowered expectations. And so as long as they've got gore
it
and they've got
moves.
and
There's
it's
pictures.
another Evil Dead movie, they're hyped.
Median has positive reactions. Of course it does. Just probably all the women in it and don't want to piss them off. Feminist movie, probably.
I
Maybe
doubt
Megan is a
that.
feminist that hates men.
It also
I buy
another thing,
everything.
what popped in my head also when I was watching the trailer
Ghostbusters
for Megan,
2016 did the same thing.
it
Had
also
positive reactions.
reminds me of The Good Son because it's a similar sort of thing with that as well. But I'll just watch that underrated thriller with Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, positive
Why not
reactions
just make?
don't necessarily mean anything. I mean, The Dark Knight Pisses had like almost 100% and had like what a 9 point something on IMDb when it came out, and the unbelievable amount of positive reviews came on the heels of a bunch of trolls threatening critics if they rated The Dark Knight Rises anything less than like 5 stars or 10 out of 10. Like they were literally threatening them and making death threats. So I think a lot of these critics that Rotten Tomatoes collects for their reviews, their review percentage, also at the time, Rotten Tomatoes was owned by Warner Brothers, the studio that released The Dark Knight Rises. So I think there was also a little bit of that as well when The Dark Knight Rises came out. But that film still gets like a way too high of a rating on IMDb.
Yeah, you got me on that.
But yeah, Ghostbusters
I
2016
mean,
had a
dog
had a
shit.
fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and they plastered it all over the advertising, and it's even there on the DVD. And if you read the reviews, there are a lot of them where the critics clearly aren't really a fan of the movie, but they're throwing it a bone because it stars women. And Richard Roper, a film critic who has been a film critic for a long time, he called that out in a video that I really admire him for. And he flat out called out that bullshit and also called out the bullshit of the movie and did not hold back and said it was a bad film. And he was like, I'm not going to give it a pass because of this and this and this. More critics
Well, I
should be
commend him
like
for that.
him. Because a lot of critics today, either on in publications like the New York Times or whatever, or some of these other places, and critics on YouTube, like really popular mainstream YouTubers, they don't have the balls to go against the grain. They don't want to
Hell,
be
how many?
controversial. They don't want to piss somebody off. They don't want to trigger anybody. They play it safe, even if it's something that they don't like. But if they
How
think it
many
might have
people?
any sort of controversy, they'll just handle with pillow
How many
gloves.
people love like Hereditary and this A24, like every
Yeah.
A24 horror film?
Mm-hmm.
Hereditary, the Birdie Teen Crown at the end, but the
Fucking Jughead
Midsommar,
origin, the Jughead origin story.
Midsommar, where a person dies, and the first thing we think about is, get your report done. Did you get your report done?
No, no, no. What it is you stole my thesis, bro. What the
Yeah,
fuck, bro? That
still
was
my
my
thesis.
thesis. It's like,
A guy just died. A person just died jumping off this thing. That don't matter, bro. Read my thesis. You steal my thesis, bro. And we're having a 10-minute argument about thesis. You just saw a guy
uh-huh.
die. Or girl, whoever was die. You see someone
It
die,
was a
you spend
guy.
10 minutes talking about
The guy
thesis.
fell off.
The
The
guy
guy
died.
he got tossed off the cliff because he's too old, and then they smashed his head like a watermelon.
and,
Or
and
you
he
have
has
this,
like
or
a
you have
10,
that whole scene in Midsummer. Remember that great, amazing scene with the fucking naked chicks moaning, and then what might as well have been fucking seals. It sounded like fucking seals having an
you remember the
orgy.
MacGyver? Remember that MacGyver opening where she had like pipes everywhere
Yeah,
in the house?
vacuum.
Like,
Looked like she took a vacuum hose that's like 1,000,000 feet long and then duct taped it to her face so she could die of asphyxiation. Um,
like all around the house, like MacGyver. Fucking shit. But
MacGyver
that was
suicide.
such a horror classic.
And
So
then you
that's how
have
MacGyver.
like
So that's how MacGyver did
everyone
suicide.
everyone in that film, when it comes to their
He's an
emotions,
idiot.
are reacting in ways that are just laughable in terms of the extreme emotions on display, in terms of their angst, their anguish, and it's all done on purpose because Ari Aster is trying to make you feel uncomfortable, but all it does is make me laugh because nobody. This is just overwrought and silly with
Mid
the
slumber.
fucking the lead girl crying like she's a fucking foghorn.
Fucking mid slumber.
Ah! Ah! What is
Must
she?
be
What
having
is
an
she? A car
orgasm.
alarm? Is she a car alarm? Is she the alarm on my fucking phone to wake my ass up? And of course, you have
Shit,
the whole
well,
stuff with uh she tricks her boyfriend or former boyfriend and kills his ass, and then the ending of the movie is her wearing a flower power crown and a flower dress and turning a frown into a smile. She turns her frown upside down. Masterpiece. Or what about Men? What about Men from last year?
you mean the one that like the message is every guy is the same? That's why the same guy plays like 50 different men. It ends with the
Mhm.
guy being reborn over and over again, like a crappy version of Extra.
Mhm.
Get off my
Yeah,
balls
that one.
movie. Or The Lighthouse, where Willem Dafoe jerks off and almost comes on Robert Pattinson's face. Kiss my ass with The Lighthouse. Kiss my ass with A24 24 times in a row. I hate A24. They're the worst horror company I've seen in the past 5 years.
What
I
about The
hate their
Witch?
pretentious little shit. The Vivitch, the
Yeah,
bitch.
The
Fuck
Witch.
it. Nothing happens. People, you don't understand what the hell's going on. You don't know what the hell they're saying because their fucking dialect and accent are so thick. About as thick as my dick. Fuck that. Fuck the witch. Fuck the movie. Fuck the non-steery ass. Fuck them dancing in the fucking skies if it was want to be hocus pocus. Fuck all that. Fuck A24. Yes, I would say even worse than Bumhouse because at least I like Get Out and a few of their other movies.
Yeah.
I can't think of an A24 horror film that I've liked. I like Uncut Gems, but that's not a horror film. I like The Disaster Artist, but that's not a horror film. Oh, Lamb, yeah. Someone gives birth to a little kid with a lamb's head, and they just act normal. This is that like that happens every fucking day. There's no reaction. If you went to somewhere and saw a little kid with a lamb's head, would you act like nothing?
No, I'd be like, what?
What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck? Like,
But no, they're like, yeah, this is the same as going out, picking roses or feeding chickens. Fucking goddamn. No one acts like a human being in those movies. They act like an
they're big
alien
fans.
from
They're big fans
Zardoz.
of M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong. That's why they're like his biggest fans. So everyone acts like an alien
Well,
or unnatural, and so on.
maybe M. Night secretly wrote these films under pseudonyms.
Ari
I believe
Aster,
it.
like if you look at a young M. Night and Ari Aster, they almost look like they could be related. I don't know.
That's a twist. They're the same person. What a twist. What a twist. They're the same person. What a twist. It's Jekyll and Hyde.
He just takes off.
Jekyll is Ari Aster. Hyde
Takes
is M.
off.
Night Shyamalan.
He just takes his face off, like in uh.
Face off.
Speaking of face off, I
Face
did hear
off.
that's getting a 4K from Kino Lorber, and I'm like, that's cool. Wait till it goes on sale. But can I get a 4K of Broken Arrow like that? That's the 4K I want more than a Face Off. Now, if we got the Stallone and Schwarzenegger Face Off, like that was a huge missed opportunity.
Sally, yeah. I wanted to mention this. They would not do that because men are bad.
Yeah,
And that's the
that's another
narrative they
trend.
want to go
That's
with.
another trend I'm getting sick and tired of seeing in Hollywood and a lot of films. Like men suck. Men are all pieces of shit. They're all misogynists, and they're all complicit in
Well, tell that
sexual assaults.
tell that to Jada Pink Slip and Amber Turd, among
Yeah.
others, or idiots like Jennifer Lawrence who thought they were the first action stars.
That was laughable. It was so bad. Like, what is in the water in Hollywood? What are these people eating? Like, what is going on? Like, how do you become that stupid?
They're
And
drinking the
that
Kool-Aid.
and that completely separate from reality. Like, I get it, they live in a bubble, but like I didn't know it was that bad.
It very bad.
And I'm surprised in
What
that
was that?
video, the guy who interviewed her wasn't like, "Come on. Come
No,
on. Come on, Jennifer."
it
Cuz
was bad
I would
dates.
I would be like
Raiders Lost Ark, bad dates.
I would be like Palmer in The Thing, and I'd just be like, "You got to be fucking kidding."
Friday 3029 was problematic and sexist. I guess they'd never seen a
What?
Friday 13 film. They've never seen a Friday 13 film, apparently.
I'm so tired of that too. Everything's problematic and everything's sexist and everything's offensive. And I'm like, times were different. You can't judge films in the past based on the standards of today. That's unfair. They don't have a time machine. They can't go forward in time to now and know what's acceptable and what's not.
What's wrong with those movies? People, they do this thing called sex, and when you do that, you
Hmm.
have to take clothes off, usually, unless they do it a different way. So,
And wasn't there
like,
also a final girl in that?
in what?
In 2009, wasn't there a final girl?
Well, there was both. There's Jared Padalecki,
Yeah,
which
there
was
was a guy
cool.
and
I
there was a
liked him,
girl.
and a
Yeah.
girl working
That's
together.
one of the reasons why that's one of the many
You
reasons why I
can't have
like
that.
that movie, is that you had a final girl and a final guy in a slasher at the end.
I mean, there's
Wow.
been ones that have done that before, but it was been a
But I mean,
while.
at but around that time, and especially now.
Yeah, like House of Wax remake. People wild World Big. I like
Yes.
that movie quite a bit.
That's
That's an
a
underrated one.
that's a really underrated gem.
House of Wax from 2005.
There was some film that it's basically House of Wax remake. I forgot what the fuck what it was. Might have been an older movie. Might have reviewed
Hmm.
it already. I don't remember because I was like, "Oh, this is basically this." Oh, Tourist Trap, House of Wax remake
Hmm.
is essentially a better version of Tourist Trap if you think about it,
Yeah, I could see that.
because you got the same
You
thing
mean
with
the
the
same tourist
brother.
trap that you mean the same tourist trap that you review
Yeah,
someone got put?
and I
What
don't
was
even
it?
have that review. It was a Blu-ray from '88, not '88 films. It was '84 films or something, some German releasing company. And I only found out about it. I think somebody told me, and I'm like, "What?" And then they're like,
And what happened? For those who
and then
don't know.
I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." What happened was they put a review that I did of the movie that's no longer up because I had to delete it because of copyright because I had clips from the movie in it, and they put it on their Blu-ray of Tourist Trap, and I didn't know anything about that until after the fact. There was somebody who pointed it out to me, and then after they did that, I contacted them on Facebook, and I think I even tried to email them, and I was like, "Hey, it's fine if you put my review on the Blu-ray and everything, but," and I was just wondering, maybe, you could send me a copy at least. No response,
Yeah.
radio silence. And I don't have that video. Like, that's the only place where that review is on that disc because I don't have it on a hard drive anymore, and
I don't know
it
if
got
that's
deleted on
anywhere
YouTube.
for it to buy. I don't even know.
It's out of print. It's out of print. But speaking of Tourist Trap Blu-rays, that film deserves way better than what Full Moon is doing with that. The transfer isn't even that great. And I don't want to hear, oh, well, the source material, you're just cheap, and you don't want to remaster it properly. I don't know. Full Moon is not the best company when it comes to
Remaster
their
film and
Blu-rays.
remaster your review and put it on there again.
I mean, Full Moon is the same company that released a 4K of Trancers that didn't even have like a proper surround sound track on it. And I heard that the 4K remaster is just an upscale, and it's not a good one. And they charged like 30 something bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And on that topic, speaking of 30 something bucks, did you see the price for Sidekicks that Vinegar Syndrome just released
Yeah,
for
it's typical.
pre-order?
It's like $45. That's typical of them. Not surprised.
It's fucking
That's just
Sidekicks. Like, there were a bunch of people in a Facebook group I'm on. They were like, "What? I've never even heard of this movie, and this price
it's a
is
good movie.
outrageous." It is. It's a fun movie, but
But
$45?
Avengers Syndrome does
No.
that with every movie they release. It's always
But this one's
overpriced.
the extreme because they made it an ultra release. So that means they made it a release that has this special fancy box and
Because you
a
know people
slip.
will buy it because it's a title many people wanted for years because it was never on
Yeah.
Blu-ray. It was
Yeah.
never on DVD in the US, and it's a Chuck Norris movie. So they know
Mhm.
there's going to be people that buy it, just like they bought Beastmaster and the
But
other.
Beastmaster, like there were people that were interested in it, but I would not say the Sidekicks fan base is anywhere near as large as Beastmaster.
Well, not as large as Beastmaster, but I think it's more than a lot of the titles they usually release.
Yeah, it
I think
depends. It
Roadhouse was
depends.
pretty.
Yeah, but even Roadhouse didn't sell out. So this is gonna take this one is not gonna sell out immediately either. It's
Well,
gonna
maybe
take
not
a while.
immediately, but I'm sure they'll kill quite a few.
Yeah, it just
But
depends. I
yeah,
mean, because
I
Beastmaster still has copies, and they've had that out for a
yeah.
long time.
But I agree that that's why I rarely buy Vinegar Syndrome. Is there? I mean, now this week they were every day they have titles for $10
Yeah.
for 10 for 10.
Uh-huh.
So I guess technically this week every day you could check and maybe get a deal
Oh, Vinegar
on this
Syndrome's
week's ten
doing that
bucks.
now? Oh, that's interesting. That's a new
They've been
thing.
doing it for the past couple days, and like for the rest of
Okay.
this week, each day is 10 different titles. It's called 10 titles for, and each one's $10,
Okay.
and they
That's a
change
good
it up
idea.
every day.
That's a
So
good
if you missed
idea.
one day, it's like right now it's which pisses me off because I wanted to get one that that Andrew Dice Clay one with Don the Dragon
Oh,
Wilson,
oh, the Don Dragon Wilson one?
whatever it takes. That was like the only one they did, and by the time I tried, it was sold out.
Mhm.
But
See,
now
that's
it's
the
in
other
stock
problem.
for the $30 one. So
There's probably a lot of people that are gonna like,
like
they'll
right
go
now,
in.
it's $10 ones for Blades, TC 2000, Amityville.
Yeah.
It's About Time. Films I would never want to buy anyway, even for
Well, I mean,
$10.
Amityville, It's About Time, I think is pretty decent. But
Okay. I don't remember that. I didn't see that one, so but that's $10. And
yeah,
then
that one
12
has
hours
Stephen
from
Mock
now,
in it.
12 hours from now, it will all be changed. There'll be 10 different titles.
Interesting.
And they've been doing
But I
that for
mean,
the past week.
but with Sidekicks, I'm like, I don't even think that needs to be a 4K release. See, that's the thing too. It's like I don't think that needs to be a 4K. On top of
Hmm.
that, it doesn't need this fancy box set. And for the price, it's just I think it's absurd for Sidekicks. I really do. Even though it's a film they've been trying to get for a long time, and it hasn't been officially released or whatever. This is like charging $45 for some deluxe box set of DC Cab. I can have fun with both films, but like this is getting to the point where I think Vinegar Syndrome is low key kind of starting to take advantage of uh its clientele.
They've been doing that for years. I mean,
Yeah.
I've known for years. That's why I never buy from them.
But it's like it's even more so now because it just seems like every year because I've been following them. It's just the
Well, they
price
have the
is
whole
raised.
subscription where you're paying
Yeah.
$900 a year to
Hmm.
get their releases.
Yep.
So they've been, and people do it, and people
Hmm.
do it, so they keep doing it. This is how it
But I
is.
mean, with From Beyond, because they just announced that, that's cheaper. It's still expensive, but it's not $45-50, and it's also 4K, and it has a 97-minute long documentary on it. So it's just like the thing with sidekicks. It's like I don't think you're getting $45 worth of content,
Hmm.
even with the commentary, even with some of the interviews.
Hmm.
But you know,
Like I said, I'd say most of the time they're over expensive anyway. So
I will say this: they are over. I can agree with them being a little overpriced, especially now. But their product is very high quality, so I will give
yeah,
them that. And their customer service is first rate because I received an item, the Freeway 4K, and it was all busted up. It's all busted up,
I mean, I
and
got yeah,
I contacted them an email and let them know what happened, and then they just immediately sent another copy, no questions asked.
yeah. I mean, I got a few Vinegar Syndrome. I got Rad before they went out a print.
That's one of their rarest
Resurrect,
catalog
yeah.
releases. Is rad.
So they I was able to get Rad. Resurrection, which is a good Christopher Lambert movie.
Mm-hmm.
His
Got
version
that
of
one too.
Seven. I got Silent Madness, which that's a fun slasher movie, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Blood Hook, which is a very goofy, bad but funny slasher film.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of Blood Hook, right?
Yeah, yeah. You told me about that
From the
one.
guys who did the Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's bad, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of funny. What was the All American Murder? That's a good one with
Mm-hmm.
uh,
I have that
Christopher
on
Walken.
Blu-ray, but it's just without a cover art or anything. It's just by itself.
Same with me. And maybe one or two more. But yeah,
I mean, there are
no, I
definitely
did not
some.
order. No, Premonitor. I did not pre-order the Aliens movie documentary. That's $100.
Yeah, fuck that
I will
shit.
never pre-order that. Fuck that shit.
The ultimate
$100 for a fucking
documentary.
documentary.
And then you get to watch lectures about theories and other
If it gave me
bullshit
a
about
rim job
aliens.
and a blow job for an hour, I would consider it. But you don't, so get out of my face. No. Kiss my
Also,
ass with that.
speaking of the documentary stuff, RoboDoc is coming out this year, and it's going to be streaming on some exclusive streaming service, the same one that streamed the Freddy's Nightmares initially until Tubi got it. And Screambox, I think is what it's called. I forgot the name. I could be wrong. I think that's what it's called though. And so they got the exclusive streaming rights, which I'm like, it's not really a horror film, so all right, I guess. And it's just gonna be like a multi-part documentary streaming initially on just the first movie. Now they are talking about other parts. But I'm hoping
Mhm.
this isn't one of those things where it's like we talk about other parts and we did film extra stuff, but yeah, we're you're just gonna get the first movie because that's what happened with the Jaws documentary. You know, the shark is still not working or still
Yeah,
working or whatever. That
still
one
not working.
initial it still had it. I mean, it initially had footage and interviews about the sequels and about the legacy and about the fans and everything. And
Yeah, it
that's
was a
how it was
longer
when it
one.
initially aired or was screened at screenings, and then when it came out on Blu-ray, it was cut and it only featured the stuff on the first movie. And we've never seen any of the other footage.
Yeah.
But
Well,
hey, at least we have confirmation that RoboDoc is finally going to be coming out.
Well, we're going on 3 hours, and I'm at like 13%. But before I leave, I'm just going to answer a lot of questions very quick, like very quick, blah blah blah, just to not leave people hanging. So let me go back a bit, and this would be like rapid fire. So bear with me on that. So let me go through this. 1985 film House. Yep, great movie. I agree. Always enjoyed that film.
Good Blu-ray by
Evil
Arrow.
Dead video games are. Yeah, William Catt. Let's see. Misery being remade. Stupid idea. Stack will be better than Kathy Bates and James Caan.
No.
Just no. Why do we need an Evil Dead movie without Bruce Campbell? Because they think they could Evil Dead remake. They want to redo that again. New Exorcist movie is David Gordon Green, who did the new Halloween trilogy. Why should I care?
Oh, but you should hate John Carpenter just as much as David Gordon Green, or as much as Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I actually had a comment about that.
Yeah, I saw that comment. The guy was a moron. Is possession films run into the ground? Absolutely. Exorcism movies run into the ground.
What's crazy is with that genre, they already did it to death in the 2000s. Remember Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Last Exorcism, what was it? The one that was in not the Vatican, the one with the nuns or whatever, and it was found footage. It was a piece of
Devil
shit.
Inside?
Yeah, The Devil Inside. That one.
The Devil Inside My Ass. That didn't even have an ending. That ended with a link to go to a website.
I know. And it
Devil
quickly flashes
on.
It flashes so quickly on the screen. You barely have a moment to register what you just saw, and then you're like, "Wait, what?" And then you go back with your remote, and then you're like, "Is you seriously telling me to go to a fucking website?"
Yeah. Just finished The Gray Man. Nothing amazing, but it wasn't awful like critics said. Yeah, I agree. I liked The Gray Man. It was a fun movie. Yes, there's a bit too much CGI, but I think Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans was a good hero and a good villain. It had some fun action set pieces, and it was entertaining as escapism. It's not going to rewrite the book of action films, but it was fun escapism.
But Matt, if it's not a completely unique idea, even though there's no such thing as that in today's day and age in Hollywood, then it's automatically bad. Or because it doesn't say something about society. That's the other thing too. Doesn't say something about society, then it's not worth much.
Or I guess if it's not a Marvel film.
Well, that too.
Because the Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell have involvement in Evil Dead Rise. They're producing it. So whether that means they get the check or whatever.
That doesn't mean anything. John Carpenter produced or was an executive producer in Halloween Ends and also did music.
He did the music, he got a paycheck. Did Mike like Nope? I don't think he's seen Nope.
Haven't seen it yet. I want to. That's on my 2022 catch-up list.
I still like Nope. Still don't understand the relevance of the crazed Monty backstory. Well, I won't ruin it for Mike. But I thought there was a relevancy to it about, how do I say in a vague way, believing in something to the point that you think things are easy to control and you're trying to control an animal and you realize that no, not everything can be there are some things that are out of your control no matter what.
Oh, okay.
I won't go into more detail, but Because the guy later on tries to control something and it doesn't go well, like this trained. Because it was on a movie set with an animal and the
Uh-huh.
animal went crazy, but he thought
Okay.
he didn't die. I don't want to go too much into it, but I thought there was. I would
Hmm.
rate the Lighthouse an FU out of 10. That movie can kiss my ass. Uh, Men is his worst film of 2022. I mean, yeah. Let's
Would that
see.
be your worst?
No, Clerks 3 is the worst movie I've seen. It was a funeral,
Yeah, I got to
absolute
see that.
funeral.
Yeah, funeral. That's what it sounds like. It just sounds like a funeral for the franchise.
Thornton says, "Love your videos. Thank you, man." Let's see.
Hey Matt, is Clerks 3 kind of like the Aliens 3 of the Clerks franchise when you think about
I said that in my review. I says the Alien 3
it?
of comedies.
Yeah.
It's the
Yep.
Alien 3 of comedies. Let's see. Sorry, folks. Just looking through here at questions. Are they working on a Face Off sequel? There was talks of it. Well,
I don't know
doesn't
how
need
the
a
hell that would
sequel.
work.
I don't need it either.
Clones.
Chase never. Yeah, probably. Sorry, Chase never heard of the game The Saboteur. Never played it. Never haven't heard of it. Uh, we must save Hollywood from the wolves. Yeah, I mean it'd be a tough battle though. Let's see.
Tom Cruise is trying though. he's 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 doing his best. That whole scene in Top
He's
Gun
trying.
Maverick is that can represent a lot of things. You know, where it's like maybe so, sir, but not today.
No, I did not pre-order Dead Space remake because I don't have PlayStation 5. That shit's way too expensive. You'd have to get a mortgage out of your house to pay for one of those.
Also, you
Does
might not
Mike
even
like
be
the
able
film?
to find it. You know, I might not even be able to find one for sale.
Does Mike like the film Near Dark?
Yeah, I don't love it though. I rewatched it fairly recently. I was doing a bit of a vampire marathon, you know, after Lost Boys. Um, the romance, when I first saw the film, I thought the romance was actually pretty decent. After watching it again, I think the romance is honestly kind of weak and one of the weaker aspects of that movie. The best things about it are like the visuals, the way it handles the vampire aspect, and Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton. Adrian Passadar is kind of not the best actor, and neither is Jenny Wright. Um, but it's a good movie for the aesthetics and for it's got a good score by Tangerine Dream. Could definitely use another Blu-ray. I mean, about damn
Yeah.
time.
No, Jad, never heard of Blood Monkey with F. Murray Abraham. If I did ever see it, I don't remember a thing about it.
Blood Monkey? Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell.
And if I did see it, I don't remember a thing about it. Switchback with Dennis Quaid, it's there. I remember the
Yeah,
trailer gave away the whole twist.
Quaid's in a good amount of like movies, but he's usually not the problem in them. So
Yeah, it's not the worst movie. Like, I could watch it, but it's not. It's got its issues, but it's not like the worst movie. And sorry, one quick line. I just don't want to miss any. Hard Target is 30 years old now. Well, I don't think yet because that came out in the summer. I mean, I do what you mean. It was 93, so not yet. Thanks, Preminator. Thank you all for joining us. And last, I'll say, what are Mike's thoughts on Enemy Mine? He likes it more than me.
yeah, I like Enemy Mine. I think it's a pretty solid sci-fi drama. It's not really an action film. It's not even really a thriller. It's really more of a drama. I think Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid deliver really fine performances. I think Wolfgang Peterson did a good job directing it. Um, I will say, I do agree with some critics when it comes to like the third act. It's kind of not necessarily the best. Like it seems like it is a little clunky in terms of the writing. Um, but I like the film. I think it's a good example of like a race allegory kind of story that's done in a way that isn't really too preachy. Because you can definitely tell what they're trying to do, with the white man and the outsider, the alien and so on.
Hmm.
But I think it's handled in a way that's um, not too forced and actually comes across kind of natural. And yeah, I like Enemy Mine. I do feel because it's a little underrated because it's not talked about that much when it comes to like sci-fi films, and I think it's definitely one of the better ones out there. I don't think it's as good as something like Alien Nation. I think that's an even more underrated and overlooked science fiction film from the 80s.
Hmm.
But I still like Enemy Mine. Of course, it's
And
definitely features
yeah,
one of Quaid's best performances as well.
and Monovol has a question for you.
Best and worst Rambo look. Um, I think I gotta go with a classic. I gotta go with Rambo 2 for the best look. Rambo 3 is a close second. They're very similar. It's just Stallone was even more ripped in Rambo 3. Um, worst look, Last Blood. He's got his hair cut short. And he wore a t-shirt in Rambo 4 as well, but like at least he had the bandana on, and he still looked like he was playing Rambo. In Rambo Last Blood, like it looks like he's playing just some other random action character. Yeah, I mean, if you took out the
Joe.
Rambo music, you took out a lot of things. Any reference to John Rambo in that movie, it could be a direct-to-video action film starring Stallone. It could be a sequel to Bullet to the Head. Like it is one of those things where it's
Hmm.
that generic in a lot of different ways,
Hmm.
and also his look for sure.
I agree. And this would be the final question. Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Glad he's
mentioned that.
feeling better though.
Yeah. I mentioned that
He had a
earlier. Snowplow
yeah.
was it
Go
a
ahead.
snowplow thing? Was it a snowplow
Yeah, he
or
was doing
something?
work on his home,
Mhm.
snowplow. He was then helping someone, and a freak accident where it kind of rolled onto him,
Yeah.
and still snowcat. I think.
Yeah.
Don't know if what will happen to his leg. There could
Yeah.
be lawn.
Mhm.
I mean, you never know. But
It
yeah, he's a good actor. It's too bad.
that would suck, if it was severe enough that he had to retire, because that is someone
Hmm.
who I think will be missed. 'Cause I've liked him in a lot of things. I even liked him in the Bourne spinoff. I just thought he was pretty decent in that. He wasn't the
I
problem in
didn't see
Mission
that one.
Impossible: Ghost Protocol. He was fine. I didn't like Ghost Protocol for other reasons, but it wasn't
Right.
really Jeremy Renner's fault. And he was good as
Right.
Hawkeye. And yeah, I mentioned that earlier when we were talking about freak accidents, specifically Anton Yelchin.
Yeah.
And I talked about Jeremy Renner and how, yeah, he's injured and he's recovering, but he's lucky in that sense because he's still here. Anton didn't make
Hmm.
it. I also want to
Yeah.
give some prayers and thoughts to Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who collapsed on the field on Monday night. His heart stopped and he had to be resuscitated and had to be taken to the hospital. And I think he's still currently in critical condition. So yeah,
But yeah, wishing Jeremy Renner a safe and full recovery.
me too.
And like I said, always enjoyed him as an actor. Wind River is a really good one.
Yeah, very
Her
underrated.
Her Locker is another really good one to me.
Yes, saw that in the theater. I think that was like the first Jeremy Renner film I think I saw. was Hurt Locker, and he was great in that.
I wish him the best, and thank you all for joining us. Thanks, Mike, for taking this 3 hours. But time flies when you're having fun with
Yeah,
my
yeah.
dear friends. So
Appreciate it. Thank you. It's been fun. Apologize if I might have went on a little too long with some of the tangents or whatever.
no, that's
Um,
that's part of the fun about this. That's the whole point. It's not to be silent. It's to talk.
yeah. Uh,
But thank you all for joining us. Take care, guys, and we will see you in the next one later.
See ya.